The Browns, they're putrid. They're the worst team in the NFL.
The 2024 season is over.
Lamar Jackson can't win the playoffs. He'll win a third MVP, though, so that's great.
Drew Sample is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish he was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, everybody, welcome in Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliott Rearing, Jacob Tissett with you here on a Tuesday. Gentlemen, welcome in. Off and rolling. Let's do this today.
Woo!
We had low energy yesterday. I feel like there's more energy today. I don't know. At least me. I had low energy yesterday.
Yeah, I didn't have much energy.
I'm an old man in my mid-30s, dude.
Yeah, I'm ready to roll today. It's a beautiful Tuesday, still raining. It's been raining for feels like a week, but you know that's what it is. So
we got to make our own sunshine in here.
Yeah, you gotta be your own light. So that's what we are today.
Casey, good morning. How are you, sir? I see you're repping the FC Cincinnati swag today.
That's right. I'm doing good. It's a somber morning today. We had some sad news happen overnight last night, but it can't get much worse than how sad and pathetic the Dolphins are. So,
man, it was such a wild twist.
I mean, it's just the truth.
That's crazy. That's insane. Oh my God.
What? Did I speak out of turn? Is it not the truth?
That was almost Casey just.
Oh my God.
We welcome you guys in Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410, ESPN Radio in Dayton. Jacob, how are you?
The Dolphins.
I mean, that was crazy. I'm doing well. I mean, that's wild, Casey, but it's a good way to get the show rolling, I guess.
That's the energy.
Bring in the high energy.
That's
That's
big
the
time.
energy.
Love the polo.
Oh, thank you. We let a lot of naysayers know this weekend.
Ooh, nice.
What
Let
a
'em know.
polo. I didn't even notice it.
But no, so what Casey was referring to, obviously, I think news that caught everyone off guard. This was not expected yesterday. But Pete Rose has officially passed away at the age of 83. And it was one of those things where Pete's always one of those I think he's one of the most polarizing sports figures of all time. Not just one of the biggest, polarizing figures in Reds history, baseball history, but I think one of the most polarizing professional athletes of all time. And everyone has a hot take when it comes to Pete Rose. And on days like today, it is tough because I don't like when we act like there's not stuff that surrounded Pete that made him kind of viewed differently towards the back end of his life, no doubt. But at the same time, when we tune in for sports, we hear all the time to stick to sports. We don't want to talk about anything other but sports, right? Leave all the other stuff out of it. Just talk from the sports perspective. And then when you do that, then you get the other people that say, well, how are you just going to forget about this, this, and this? The one thing, whether you loved Pete or not, is the fact that we all have to agree the impact that he had on the sport itself, or the impact that he had on the city, the impact that he had on the organization, being the Cincinnati Reds. He played for multiple organizations, obviously. And right now I'm sitting in a room with guys, including myself, that we never watched Pete Rose play. But my goodness, it feels like we just lost a guy that we grew up watching, even though we didn't. Pete's one of those, if you take all the outside noise off of it and just look at the impact he had on the sport of baseball itself, the one thing that I'll always remember Pete Rose for is not the gambling issues, not, all that stuff to me, not even the hits. He's the hit king, right? Not even the hits leader. It's not any of that. The reason I'll always remember Pete Rose, and it's the standard that I always like to hold all my athletes to when I tune in to watch sports, is he gave a damn. Man, he gave a damn. He cared so much. He loved the game more than anything else. Well, maybe not anything else, but he loved baseball. That was his absolute livelihood. Baseball was absolutely everything. And, a lot of times, we as fans like to feel that, man, when our team loses, that we are gutted, that we feel absolutely horrible. We'd like to feel that the athletes feel the same way. Not always the case. Not always the case. The baseball is not always everything to every baseball player that we tune in to watch and listen to on a day in, night out basis. And that's the reality of it. With Pete, you never felt like he didn't give a rip. You never felt, no matter how big his name got, no matter how much of a celebrity he became, you never once felt that, he became bigger than the sport to the point where he didn't care about it. He cared. If they lost, he cared. If they lost, you cared. If he lost, you cared. If he lost, you knew he was devastated as well. But that's the one that, from his effort out on the field to the impact that he had on the city, the impact he had on the organization, he is just the one athlete that I always wanted to interview. I always wanted to meet. I never got that opportunity, but it definitely caught me off guard yesterday. I know a lot of the former teammates of his, just members of the Reds organization. We just had Marty Brennaman on the show last Friday. The statement that was released by Marty Brennaman late last night through his wife's Instagram page, Amanda, reads as this: I really don't know what to say. I can't believe he is gone. My two best baseball friends are gone. First Joe Morgan and now Pete. Right now it's hard for me to come to grips with it. There's pictures of he was just doing an autograph signing 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
Ric Flair, legendary wrestling figure, right? He put out a tweet a little bit ago saying, what the heck? Like, we were just signing autographs for guys last night. You left and didn't say goodbye. Like, he goes, you're not supposed to do that. I think this caught everyone by surprise. I don't think, he wasn't battling something. It wasn't like it was expected. This seemed to have caught everyone by surprise, and that's exactly what happened last night. Eduardo Perez was live on SportsCenter and basically broke the news himself that he was confirmed that Pete was, had passed away earlier in the day. Just a wild day. And then, of course, you see the sad, pictures and videos kind of floating around, people going and dropping off roses at the Pete Rose statue outside Great American Ballpark. Just a wild situation. Again, no one had anticipated this. It caught everyone by surprise. And I can't remember, I wish I can give credit to who tweeted this out, but Pete Rose was known for, of course, being an Iron Man, playing in every single game that he could. Did not want to take days off. Rest days, I mean, imagine him playing in today's day and age with rest days and taking days off. That's the norm now. It wasn't the norm for him, but the tweet was pretty cool, talking about he passed away after the final game of the regular season, again making it through all 162.
Yeah.
I thought that was fitting, but rest in peace, Hit King Pete Rose. One of my all-time favorite athletes, and I never even watched him play. That's the impact that he didn't just have on his generation, but generations after that didn't even watch him. That's pretty wild to me. Rest in peace, Hit King.
Yeah, I was thinking about what I was going to say today, and I didn't get to watch him play, but as somebody who loves baseball, who's somebody who loves the Cincinnati Reds, grew up in a family that enjoyed watching baseball, watching the Cincinnati Reds. Pete Rose was the Cincinnati Reds. He was baseball, and I think he became a larger-than-life figure in Cincinnati. He was more than just a man, right? When you think of Pete Rose, you think of the World Series championships. You think of the city. You think of the opening day parades. You think of everything that comes with him, and for that, I can respect him a tremendous amount. I think the fact that he's not in the Hall of Fame for gambling is a joke. I think that if you look at the outfield walls and Great American Ballpark, and 4 panels out in the outfield are sponsored by several different sports books. We had a BetMGM inside the ballpark. Everybody knows my take on it. I won't go too far into it right now, but yeah, I think the gambling aspect of it was granted. You shouldn't bet on your team, but I think he served the punishment, and I think eventually you have to let him in. And we were talking about it before the show. When will he be let in? Do you think he'll be let in? I believed that when he died, Major League Baseball would say he served his lifetime ban and put him in, which is unfortunate because I do think that Pete Rose is a Hall of Famer. I don't think there's any question about that. When you had the amount of hits that he had, and what he meant to the sport. You can't write the book of baseball without at least a couple chapters on Pete Rose. So the fact that he never got to be in the Hall of Fame while he was alive as some sort of punishment by Major League Baseball, I think that's terrible. But yeah, I think the latter half of his career or the latter half of his life, I think some of the legacy took a couple knocks, but at the end of the day, I love Cincinnati Reds baseball, and as a trickle-down effect, it probably started right around with Pete Rose. So thank you, Pete Rose.
Yeah, there's always a debate about whether this town's a baseball town or a football town, and when Pete Rose was here, there's no question about it. It was a baseball town, and he made it that way, and you touched on it there briefly, but obviously a lot of different scandals make his past pretty sketchy, but there's no question about how much he meant to so many people in this city and how many people he made Reds fans. And obviously, I'm too young to have watched him play, but I'm sure he's a big reason why my dad and my grandpa are Reds fans, and they're the reason why I'm a Reds fan. So there's obviously a big effect that he's had on me as many Reds games as I watch, and now to a degree talking about him for a living. Who knows if I'd be where I'm at now without him bringing the Reds to prominence. So he's one of my favorite players that I never got to see across all sports. And like you said to start, I feel like I have watched him play just by the amount of highlights and videos and pictures and hearing everyone else talk about him. So he means so much to the city by so much more than just a baseball player, a hometown kid who brought the Reds to true prominence. And yeah, it's a sad day that he didn't get to see himself go into the Hall of Fame, because I know we have a clip of him talking about it, but the biggest thing about the Hall of Fame is getting to see it and getting to have your day in the sun and getting to be there in Cooperstown when they unveil your plaque, and he's not going to get to see that, which is a real shame. But I hope that they do the right thing and they put him in eventually, because even though they missed their chance to truly do the right thing and put him in while he's alive, they can still correct it to a degree and have him in the Hall of Fame, because you can't tell the story of baseball without him.
Yep.
Yeah, and I know, Elliot, you'd come across a clip of him kind of addressing, and he being Pete Rose, kind of addressing the idea that, almost punishing him by not putting him in the Hall of Fame while he is alive, but talking about what it means to be put in the Hall of Fame, not just for himself, but what it would mean for his family. I'll kind of let you set it up a little bit. You came across this earlier today.
Yeah, I saw this. Shout out to Big C, the Viking guy. We know Big C here in this chat, but he tweeted this. It was one of the, I guess, one of his final interviews or over the past couple of years, and basically he was addressing the fact that he's probably aware that Major League Baseball might put him in after he passes away. And how it's not really good for anybody, because that ceremony's for his family, that's for the fan base, and they want to see Pete Rose alive to be there and accept that. So this is Pete Rose.
I don't see much sense in putting me on the ballot after I die, because for a player to go into his or her Hall of Fame, it's more or less for your family and it's more or less for your fan base. And I'm big on both of those two things right there. And I know most of the people who rooted for me my whole career would love to see me in the Hall of Fame as a living player, not as someone that's 10 feet under. And I always thought about that. What good would it do my family if they put me in the Hall of Fame after I die? I can't think.
Yeah, and that's an accurate point. Yeah. I don't know. And I imagine we would have to wait here a couple years for this to happen. But Jacob's right. I hope it does. I hope Major League Baseball corrects this, and he gets into the Hall of Fame. Because he was if the Hall of Fame's about being a Hall of Fame baseball player, that's what Pete Rose was.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, and obviously can't speak for his family, but what big part of what he said right there is how much it means to the fan base. And obviously we would have liked to see him in while he was here, but it still would mean a lot to this fan base to have Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame, because that's one of the biggest things about Reds baseball is how many times do you go to a Reds game now, still in 2024, and you talk to different people about, hey, Pete should be in the Hall of Fame. You see the T-shirts outside the stadium all begging for Pete to be in the Hall of Fame. Still one of the most popular jerseys in the stadium. He's a guy the city loves, and obviously it would have been great to see himself get in, but even now that he's gone, it would mean a lot to this city and this fan base to have Pete get his rightful day getting into Cooperstown.
Yep.
All right, again, Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett with you here, opening up the show, of course, reacting to the news that broke late, yesterday afternoon into the evening. Pete Rose, again, 83 years old, announced he had passed away yesterday. Definitely caught the sports world by surprise, and definitely Reds country, no doubt. But we'll have more Off the Bench when we come back. We got college football coming up around the corner, as well as NFL, and we'll also dive into some more Cincinnati Reds discussion as well. From a clip that we'll share with you from our conversation with Marty Brenneman last week. More Off the Bench when we come back. All right, and we are back. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We are on Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, of course. We appreciate you. And those who are tuning in and hanging out with us, hit the like button below, of course. We see everyone that's tuning in right now. If you could do us a favor, hit that like button. That helps the algorithm. It helps help us build the show. We really appreciate that. Please go ahead and hit that like button now. Before we move on from this, we talked about Pete Rose. Let's go around the room. now that he is, has passed, and this is the thing that drove me nuts about the Hall of Fame is like, it's really, I think that the Hall of Fame's taken a major hit over the years when you don't have your home run king in there, you don't have your home run leader in there, you don't have your hits leader in there, you're going to have some of your top pitchers in the history of baseball not being there because of the steroid allegations and because, of course, sports gambling with Pete and all this. And I'm like, I've always said, man, it's way tougher to get into the Baseball Hall of Fame. I think it's easier to get to heaven than it is to get into the Hall of Fame. I mean,
I think that might be right.
We can mock that or laugh at it or whatever, but it does seem to be the reality of it. And you have pencil-pushing geeks who write about the sport for a living that have all this power to put the guys that actually matter in. These guys that vote, like the power play that some of these writers have with this particular situation, it drives me nuts, especially with the Barry Bonds. If Barry Bonds wasn't the friendliest player in the world, he didn't kiss babies and give out his phone number and want to hang out with these guys. If these players were nice to the media, we'll be nice back. Not all media members are unprofessional, but I mean, that does play a huge role in this. Pete, I mean, it was a vendetta against Pete as far as that's concerned. Now, Pete made it easy. Pete made it easy for some of these guys to go after him and to hold a lot of that stuff against him. But I have a hard time believing that if, that some of these writers weren't petty with their approach to this as far as that's concerned. But I would almost be, when they do announce, if they ever announce that Pete Rose is going into the Hall of Fame, I would almost be more offended by that than anything. Because it was like, okay, now you can get in. It just seems like, okay, now you can get in would be coming from such a bad place that I would leave a bad taste in my mouth. I would love to see Pete in the Hall of Fame, but I wanted to see the speech. I think he would give the speech of all speeches. I don't think anyone would come close to topping a Pete Rose speech being inducted into the Hall of Fame. We're never going to see that. So I just feel like when that time comes, if it comes, I'm not going to, when they announce that he's in the Hall of Fame, because I still feel like putting him in the Hall of Fame is still an extra punishment to him. See? We told you we weren't going to put you in when you were still breathing here on this earth. I have a problem with that. I'm going to feel a certain way if they ever allow him into the Hall of Fame at this point.
I think the Hall of Fame has become an ego fest with those writers, and it's just, I don't know, how did they treat me off the field? And it's, did they do enough? I don't know. I didn't really watch them a ton, but I see the numbers here, and they're not good enough. I think that's what it's become for MLB Hall of Fame voters, writers, whoever they are. I think it's a joke. I think it's a sham, saying that it is the pinnacle of the sport, and you want your guys to be in that club. I want Joey Votto to be in that club one day. And I don't understand. I get the gambling thing. Don't bet on your own team. I get it. Saying that, from what he accomplished for Major League Baseball, just for that alone, he should be a Hall of Fame baseball player. And the fact that he's not, again, is just a testament to the way Major League Baseball has done things forever, and they'll never change. And that's how it is, unfortunately. I'm not going to be angry when they put him in, if they put him in, but I'm not gonna feel happy about it. I'm not gonna jump for joy, because I do think it's almost an insult to do it. I think as much as it is an honor to put Pete in, you didn't do it when he was alive, and you made it very clear that you were never going to do it while he was alive as a form of punishment. So if you're going to do it now, I think it would look pretty bad. It would look pretty weak on Major League Baseball's part. But saying that, again, for the respect of Pete Rose, I do hope his name is associated with the Hall of Fame.
Real quick, Jacob, I just saw someone say, well, he could be in the stats Hall of Fame. And I'm like, but that's what the Hall of Fame is.
It's not the Hall of good players.
Yeah.
It's not the Hall of good guys.
Good person.
It's not the Hall of the best husbands and brothers and friends in the world. It's the Hall of the best baseball players to ever play the game. And if the guy that has the most times putting the bat on the ball in the history of the game, which is the goal of playing baseball, is not in your Hall of Fame, then I think there's a pretty big smudge on your Hall of Fame. So I agree with you guys both 100% that it doesn't mean as much, and it would certainly, feel a little slimy if they put him in now that he's passed. But I still think it just means so much to the sport of baseball to correct this massive error, massive omission, that when it does come, I think it is a win for the sport, even though it's not what it should be when he has a chance to be there in person.
Yeah, the concept. I'm not a Pete guy. You and I say, oh, why aren't you a Pete guy? There's always justifiable reasons why people aren't Pete guys, but that has nothing, like when people in the Hall of Fame, it's about your accomplishments as the player itself. Like it's just, I don't know. But then again, people will turn and twist your words and say, oh, you're approving of the stuff that he was accused of, this, that, and the other. you want to twist it to make yourself feel better and feel like a holy roller and feel like you're better than everybody else, more power to you. But this idea that Pete Rose is not a Hall of Famer, he's a Hall of Famer whether he gets in or not, in my opinion. But yeah, and to go back to your point, I do want to see him in. I'm just going to feel a certain way about it after because it's almost going to feel like it's a petty thing more than anything else. But how long, for one, do we think he gets? Is he going to get in? Do you think he gets in now? People are deciphering the lifetime ban. Unfortunately, with Pete Rose passing away now, that lifetime ban is up. Like, it's time to put him in? Will he get in? Do you think he'll get in? And what's the time span between when that happens?
I do believe he'll get in. Elliot said it earlier. I think we're going to have to wait a couple of years just to, have a little bit of the animosity of people mad at the Hall of Fame for not letting him in while he was alive die down. And then I think when the conversation it comes over this hill of you should have let him in while he was alive and bottoms back out into why is he not in the Hall of Fame, that's when he's going to get back in. Whether that's 2, 3 years or 5 years from now, I don't know, but I absolutely think he's going to get in eventually. And one thing that popped up on my timeline yesterday that made me just, my spine crawl a little bit was the National Baseball Hall of Fame put out a nice RIP tweet for Pete Rose. And it was just like, really? Like, really?
They were damned.
Yeah. I didn't see that.
They were damned if you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. I would rather go with the damned if you don't because I thought that
made
looked,
me feel.
You're telling me the Baseball Hall of Fame tweeted that?
Oh yeah, one of the first ones to get that out.
Yeah,
there.
one of the
it's
very
like they
first
had
ones.
it saved in their drafts. I mean, it was just I'm with you, Jake. I did not.
Hall of Fame remembers Pete Rose, MLB's all-time hits and games played leader who passed away on Monday. Charlie Hustle won 3 batting titles, earned 17 All-Star Game appearances, and won 3 World Series championships.
Man, that is. I mean, that's a
borderline disgusting.
That's a classless tweet.
Yeah.
Whoever runs that account should be ashamed.
Like, they would get ripped if they didn't tweet something out, but I think that's better than doing that because it just, again, so that's why, and I know I'm not saying Twitter and Hall of Fame are exactly the same thing, but anything associated with the Hall of Fame now after his passing just seems icky, and that's kind of where I'm at as far as that goes. But
the MLB also waited a long time.
I saw that.
A long time to post anything.
So, well, I think probably they're trying to get clearance of what to put out so they don't look silly like the Hall of Fame as far as that goes, no doubt. But, like, it is what it is. I mean, we're spending a lot of time on the Hall of Fame discussion of this, but to be fair, some are saying, man, he lost his life, and you guys are making this about the Hall of Fame, but that was what his life ambition was about. That's what he wanted. He wanted to get in before he took his final breath. He wanted his family, he wanted to give that speech. He wanted to be there with his family, and that's not going to happen as far as that's concerned. So it is unfortunate. I don't know. How do you guys, like, I was talking to Casey before we came in. I'm like, I'm not sure how to feel. Like, when athletes pass, celebrities pass, like, I'm not saying you don't care, from a human aspect, but some hit you different than others. This one hit a different way just because of what he meant to the fan base of Cincinnati, what he meant to that organization. And then when I sat back and thought about it, I'm like, man, I never watched him play. I never watched him physically pick up a bat. I never watched him. He never, all my games I've attended as a Reds fan are at Great American Ballpark. A lot of great memories at Great American Ballpark. I don't know. This one just hit a little different, and I think it's just because of how much he meant to the community, no doubt.
Well, like I said, Pete Rose was the Cincinnati Reds, and I think all of us in this room.
He's been bigger than that. He was the city.
Yeah, I think we all, a lot of our great memories are associated with sports. And when we think of sports, you think of your favorite teams. And when you think of your favorite teams, you think of Pete Rose. And that's what it is. So I think a part of the Cincinnati Reds organization passed away yesterday, a really large part of it. And, yeah, I think you're seeing a bunch of emotions about memories and what he did and what those teams did that he played on, not only just for this city, but for everybody, for the baseball world. The Cincinnati Reds were at the pinnacle of the baseball world for a long period of time, and again, you can't talk about those times without Pete Rose. He was so good at baseball, and he was this icon in this city. So when you see him pass away, it's a part of your memories, part of your childhood passes away with him. So that's the sadness. That's the sad part. Again, I never got to watch him, unfortunately, but he lives. He lives in my family's house. He lives in my grandparents' house. He lives everywhere. So it's a sad day. It's a sad day for sure.
Yeah, I think the main thing I thought of when I saw this was, number one, I was kind of surprised about how weird, upset, I guess it made me feel, just because I obviously did never watch him play. but seeing how it's affected the people that did watch him play, and it really makes me just dread the day that the guys I actually did get to see start to pass on. Just because imagine watching the Big Red Machine, and now in the last year or so you've lost Joe Morgan and Pete Rose, and they're really starting to fall. And you see Alex Wallace puts it in the chat. He says the real sad thing about this is the Reds' only dynasty is dying, and that just really makes you feel like how far away it is and how long ago it was, and how great that team was, and how many memories that are still passed down from a team that played in the 70s. And that's really just what it is. The ripple that him and the Big Red Machine have had through this city for decades and decades is something that's going to be hard to ever match again. I think that's why it's such a dark cloud over the city. It's feels right that it's a rainy day today. It wouldn't feel the same, get in the car and it's all sunny and shiny this morning. This is a guy that, if you link any individual to this city, it's Pete Rose. And for better or for worse, that's the truth. And he passed away last night, and that's going to be sad for every single person that's ever grown up or rooted for the Reds at any point in time.
Brian B. In the chat says, just checked my old ticket stubs. I saw Rose play 67 times. Saw 7 games during the 44-game hit streak. Pretty cool.
That's very cool.
So, all right, this is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton. We'll have Elliot's headlines, and we'll start to get into the rest of the rundown of the show when we come back. All right, and we are back off the bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Appreciate everyone who's weighing in the chat, again, about Pete Rose. And I think the one thing, too, that made Pete so larger than life was the fact that, he walked before he played for the Cincinnati Reds, before he became a Reds icon, he grew up in Cincinnati. He was Cincinnati. And I think that's what just adds that cherry on top to just how special he was to the organization and to the city itself. I just saw, where'd it go? My apologies. Someone just tweeted out, you'd see Oscar, you'd see, Pete, you'd see these bigger than life celebrities just walking around town. And it wasn't that they were walking around town, they were walking around home. This is home as far as that's concerned, but we appreciate reading everyone's reactions in the chat and sharing their memories of Pete Rose as far as that's concerned. Coming up after this show in Dayton, for those who are listening on radio later today, my show after this, we'll have Hal McCoy. He's a Hall of Fame writer for Dayton Daily News for so long. He was actually the lead writer that was helping cover and investigate the Pete Rose situation. And he has a ton of great stories that I've always loved hearing over the years, but he's going to come on and share a couple Pete memories. He put out a great piece this morning just sharing, as a tribute to Pete, and I'm excited to have Hal McCoy on the show coming up on ESPN 1410 Wing AM later today at 4 o'clock. So keep that in mind. But all right, we'll continue to keep an eye on the Pete Rose memories being shared in the chat. But we'll continue on with the show, and we'll touch base on what's kind of going on in the rest of the world of sports. We got Elliot's headlines. I know I caught him off guard. I caught Casey off guard. We'll continue on with the rest of what's going on in the world of sports as we send it over to Elliot for Elliot's headlines.
Elliot loves 3 things: Joey Votto, David Bell, and leading off the bench with top headlines.
That's right, Casey. Also, I saw a message from Brian B in here that I actually kind of agree with here. Might be silly, but even today I pay extra for a ticket stub to games I attend. I have them in a book. I think that's awesome.
100%.
I think that's the way to go. I think the world of electronic tickets have kind of ruined that. So
It's the worst.
But going on with my headlines here. Also, PB. I was at the 41-92 game. He was 22 years old. That's pretty cool. Headlines yesterday. The Mets and Braves. They took one another on in a doubleheader. Sweep. You're in. Losers out. Diamondbacks in. Split. Braves and Mets go. It was a split. The first game was one of the more electric games I've ever witnessed. We watched it in here until the very end. Some of us had a responsible amount of money on the Braves to come back from 6-3 down, and I felt really good about that heading into the top of the ninth.
They had a 99.4 win percentage probability.
Yeah, that's brutal. And then obviously Francisco Lindor didn't walk it off, but hit a go-ahead 2-run shot in the top of the ninth. Braves led 3-0. Mets took the lead 6-3. Braves led 7-6. Mets win at 8-7. So
after blowing the 8th inning lead, Edwin Diaz was told he was coming out, and he basically just said no.
Love that.
And then came back in and shut the door. So pretty cool to see.
The second game, not much to talk about. Braves shut out the Mets 3-0, but it was interesting because at the beginning of the game, Chris Sale was scratched.
Yep.
So the ace of the Braves said, "No go, I'm out." And the Braves had to fight for their lives with not their ace. So that was tough to see. But the Mets, again, didn't really care. Easy 3-0 win for Atlanta. Both those teams move on. I think the Braves do play tonight. And the Diamondbacks have been eliminated.
Snickers said Sale's not going to be available for the Padres series either.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Moving on from there, we had 2 NFL games last night. We'll start with the terrible one. The Titans beat the Dolphins 31-12, and we have maybe the worst team in the NFL. If that's the team going forward, that is the worst team I've ever seen play competitive, organized football. The fact that, I mean, I had a little bit higher hopes for Huntley, but Tyler Huntley looked absolutely abysmal. Couldn't have looked worse. There was a point in that game where if they got a first down, it was asking a lot. Tyler Huntley, 14 for 22, 96 yards. He was also the leading rusher, 40 yards on 8 carries and a touchdown. Waddle was the leading receiver with 36 yards. Tyreek Hill was a non-factor. You saw him screaming on the sidelines, yelling at everybody. And then it's a very funny zoom-in of Mike McDaniel, who's just staring there off in the distance. Mason Rudolph had to come in for Will Levis for the Titans. Mason Rudolph, 9 for 17, 85 yards. Not a great game for the quarterback of the Titans. Tony Pollard, 22 for 88 and a touchdown. Hopkins had 31 yards, led receiving for Tennessee. So 31-12, the final. The Titans get their first win of the NFL season.
Dolphins have not taken a snap on offense with the lead yet this year.
Really? Oh, boy.
4 games into the season.
The Seahawks, they fall to the Lions 42-29. Lions looked absolutely phenomenal. Jared Goff, I believe, is the first quarterback in NFL history to go 18 for 18, throw 292 yards and have 2 touchdowns. A perfect completion percentage. I forget what the line was. Maybe over 15 throws. There was a qualifying number, and
that was the most
completions
completions in an NFL game without any completion.
There it is. Jahmyr Gibbs, 14 carries, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jamison Williams had a 70-yard touchdown. That was incredible.
That's why he's Ben Frank and you're not.
That's right. Outside of that, Laporta did great, 4 for 53. You have Amon Ross, 6 for 45. I think that was one of 3 times in his career where he caught 6 passes and didn't get 70-plus yards. So,
wow.
Interesting little stat there. But nonetheless, the Lions win this game 42-29. Geno looked very good, 38 for 56, 395 yards, a garbage time touchdown. A garbage time interception and a touchdown. Kenneth Walker, 12 for 80. Keep in mind he had 4 yards, I think, at the end of the first half.
He had the
scored 3
most
touchdowns.
impressive broken tackle I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the one where he did the ninja?
Yeah.
The ninja
He
kick?
rolled over the guy and then somersaulted backwards and ran for 10 yards.
Yeah, it's outrageous. DK Metcalf, 7 catches, 104 yards. So, nonetheless, good for the Lions, 42-29 victory. Both teams are now 3-1.
Goff said after the game that that's the first touchdown pass he's ever caught.
Really?
He said he's played quarterback at every level. That's the first touchdown pass he's ever caught. It's pretty cool.
That's outrageous. Moving on. Gonzaga has announced that they are joining the Pac-12. There were some rumblings of where they would go. They will be joining the Pac-12 officially, I believe, this
via
time.
Pete Thamel. Gonzaga is set to join the Pac-12 today. An announcement is coming soon.
Oh,
so
wow.
That basketball conference is going to be very fun. Not sure what it means for football. I did see about a week and a half ago that there were conversations for UConn to join the Pac-12 as football only, leaving basketball in the Big East, removing UConn's football from independence.
When you talked,
UConn, not Utah.
Yeah.
UConn. So that would certainly be interesting as well. Jim Mora has that organization trending in a good direction, so it would be interesting for UConn.
Yeah, Dayton fans are keeping an eye on the whole UConn basketball situation because rumblings out there, of course, of, well, if a spot opens up in the Big East, Dayton's always been rumored to head there, you know. So I know Flyer fans, and again, I know not a lot of Flyer fans that tune in to this side, and they don't, Flyer fans aren't a big fan of me. Cause like I don't bow down to the Flyers in Dayton all that
Ain't
often.
no stopping Obi Toppin.
You know, but nonetheless, I know they'll be keeping an eye on that UConn. Shout out to Duron Holmes, by the way.
That's right.
Looks like UTEP will be joining the Mountain West.
Yep.
That's right.
So some
I'm
more.
from El Paso, by the way, so that's
Really?
Oh yeah,
You're
I was
from
born there.
How long do you live there?
About 10 years, 11
No
years.
way.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
so I still go visit family over in El Paso. But yeah, UTEP, pretty wild.
Outside of that, not much else. We got some playoff baseball today. It kicks off with the Tigers and the Astros at 2:30. That is the first game today. That should be a good one. Also, I saw this, and I wanted to read it because I think Jacob and Kinner will like this. LeBron, joined by Bronny, enters year 22 with a lot in the tank. That was just a headline on ESPN.
They interviewed him at Media Day yesterday, and they asked him about the Olympics, and he said that prior to the Olympics, he thought he had limited amount of time left in the NBA.
And now he's back.
He said he did not realize how much he had left in the tank. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm going to drink my LeBron Hennessy and watch LeBron play year 22, and it's going to be the best.
What's the most amount of seasons played in an NBA in the NBA?
You're looking at it.
Is he the oldest? Really?
22.
Not just the longevity, but the dominance during that stretch.
That's crazy.
I mean, me and Jake, we were on the same page as far as the LeBron stuff, because we could talk about longevity all you want, and people use that against him. I'm like, but it's not just that. It's like to be almost 40 and still dominating the league the way he is, 20-plus years into the league. It's just insane.
So, fun little LeBron-Alabama crossover stat I saw this weekend. I'm probably the only person that would have this in their back pocket.
Sure.
Ryan Williams, the freshman wide receiver for Alabama, only 17 years old, born in 2007. The last time LeBron scored less than 10 points in an NBA game was prior to when Ryan Williams was born.
Whew. Whew.
That's unreal.
It's like, it is.
Yeah. He would have to average 5 points per game this year to break the record for scoring at this age.
Jacob, a little bit ago, you mentioned the Dolphins. They have led 0 minutes and 0 seconds this entire 4 weeks, this entire season so far, 4 weeks in. The 33rd team, they put out a list of, here are the list of the least amount of time spent with a lead this season. Take a look for those who are watching on YouTube right now. The Dolphins, they have led for 0 minutes and 0 seconds. The Rams have led for the second least amount of time at 25 minutes. And then if you hit the show more, don't worry, my garbage Browns team, they're right there at number 9. Yep. The Browns have led for a total of 1 minute. I'm sorry, of what, 1 hour and 20 minutes?
Yep.
Is that how that's calculated? So there you go.
Good for you guys.
go.
Big hour.
Is that an hour? Is that that's 1 hour? So in
1
20
hour.
minutes.
1 hour, 20 minutes, 25 seconds.
But 0 minute. The Dolphins have led for 0 minutes. That is wild.
Yeah, and they won a football game. they're not winless.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Jags. Shout out to the Jags.
My question that I was really shaking in my boots last night, and you can go ahead and cut me off if this is crazy, but Rashee Rice,
Sure.
knee injury, Dolphins, pretty bad. I wonder how Tyreek Hill would look in a Chiefs offense.
I bet he looked pretty good. If the Dolphins did that, I'd be very upset.
Do you think the Dolphins would do that?
If they tear it all down, who's a better Tyreek Hill suitor than the Kansas City Chiefs?
Let me
Send them all back.
I mean,
like,
let me
send
throw
them all
you
back.
this
The
one.
band back together.
Why not? Why not?
Why
let
not?
me throw out this
Oh, it's
one.
terrifying.
There's rumors going around now that Devontae Adams wasn't really hurt and that they're just trying to sit him before a trade is made.
Yeah.
There was a couple reports saying that he's played his last game. for
Antonio
Las
Pierce
Vegas.
liked
Liked
2
it,
pictures on
yeah.
Instagram. Yeah.
Devontae Adams with Patrick Mahomes.
They won't trade him in division.
Yeah.
That's the
they
only
would
thing
do that.
saving us there. Antonio Pierce won't trade him to the Chiefs. I do
fair.
think he will be a Jet.
That would be awesome.
Because they'll
too.
just send Hassan Reddick, who's already not playing, to the Raiders.
Yeah.
Because all Antonio Pierce cares about is building a defensive line that makes Patrick Mahomes scared. He doesn't care about scoring points on offense. So he'll ship Devontae Adams to the Jets because Aaron Rodgers hates Garrett Wilson, so you have to just get his buddies back in town. And then he'll have Hassan Reddick, Christian Wilkins, Max Crosby.
Yep.
And then you'll just try to beat the Chiefs 10-7.
Yeah.
Yeah, the another name being rumored for, of course, the Chiefs is Amari Cooper. If
Yeah.
the Browns drop to 1-4 this coming up weekend, it could be one of those where just count your losses and try to get something in return and capitalize on the urgency of the Chiefs.
Can the other 31 of us come together and just not
Help
give
the
them
Chiefs.
a number 1 wide receiver?
Yeah.
I think that'd be a good
That
plan.
would be a great plan.
Where are you at with Amari? Is he a legit number
Yeah.
1 to you?
I think so. I love him.
He's phenomenal.
He's younger
No,
than Calvin
I'm with
Ridley.
that. The debates I get into people regarding him,
I think
include like former NFL players that I get into it with about Amari Cooper. I'm always just like, well, maybe I am just being a homer, so I just kind of like throwing that out there.
he's only 30.
I feel like he's been around forever. Like you know what I mean? Like he's only 30, but I feel like he's been
came
around
in the
for
league
a
in
minute.
2015.
Like,
21 years
yeah.
old. He's
So-
he's an unbelievable player. He hasn't had. I mean, he had below 1,000 yards 1 year in the last 5. He's an unbelievable talent.
All right, this is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. The biggest surprise, we're 4 weeks in, we're officially a month into the season. Week 4 wrapped up last night. The biggest AFC surprise and the biggest NFC surprise as we are officially 1 month into the season. We'll discuss when we come back. All right, last night, week 4 of the NFL season officially wrapped up, and it's wild. I feel like we wait so long for the season to get here, and then you blink, and we're 1 month in. And some fan bases feel dejected. You wait all offseason to get to this season, and then now you're like, we waited for this?
Oh, yeah.
I'm one of those fans.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm like, I couldn't wait for the Browns season to get here, and here they are at 1-3, and I'm like, this is what I was talking all that smack for. This is what I was waiting for. Absolutely brutal. But with that being said, a lot of surprises 1 month into the season, some good, some bad. And we'll start with the AFC as we kind of work the room a little bit. The biggest surprise out of the AFC 1 month into the season, Casey, do you want to jump in? Do you want to start? Do you want to do two things at once? You got to put up the lower third. You got to jump in on the conversation. Out of the AFC, what is the biggest surprise for you out of the AFC 1 month in?
The biggest surprise in the AFC. You know, I think there's only really a couple answers here, and I don't want to steal.
Steal
The
it.
obvious
Steal
one.
it. Take your obvious one.
The obvious one to me is the Bengals being 1-3.
Easily.
I think that's just the biggest surprise. I think that's the biggest disappointment out of the entire season so far. I know maybe we were looking for maybe positive surprises, but this is definitely one of the biggest negative surprises of the season so far.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Steelers, 3-1. I thought the Steelers would be a joke. I thought Justin Fields would be a joke. Hasn't been the case. Steelers look like they're gonna win 9 games again at least. I know I've seen the back half of that schedule, and it becomes a gauntlet here in a couple months. But as of right now, if you would have told me that the Steelers would be 3-1 leading the division after a month of football, I would have laughed at you. So
I would pump the brakes slightly. Kirk Cousins' first game off an Achilles tear, Bo Nix, and then half a game with Justin Herbert, and then you lose to Anthony Richardson and Joe Flacco. I'm
just saying, it's wins are wins in the NFL.
You're not wrong.
And if you're 3-1, the Bengals played a Patriots team that was terrible. So I'm just saying, 3-1's 3-1.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I think those are two pretty easy ones so far, and I'm going to go with a team that I know they didn't look good in their most recent game, but I think the Buffalo Bills have been incredibly surprising to me so far. Mm-hmm. I did not have them looking nearly as dominant. I thought Josh Allen was going to really, really struggle with the lack of weapons, the lack of experienced weapons on that team. I didn't think James Cook had the ability to be a full bell cow lead back, and I was absolutely wrong. The defense has stepped up with some massive losses on that side of the ball, and Josh Allen looks like an MVP candidate 3 out of the first 4 weeks. So, I'm going to go with the Bills.
Yeah, and a lot of surprises out of the AFC. The one I did have, because with surprises, you think, all positives, right? And the Bengals are coming off their first win of the season. They avoided the 0-4 start. It does seem like things are trending in the right direction. The offense is rolling. The defense reinforcements could potentially be coming. It doesn't mean it's going to make the defense great or elite, but make it not as bad as what it's been. But we'll get to more of that coming up later this week. But no, I did have the Bengals as the most surprising just because the 1-3 start, especially if you would have told me in July that Joe Burrow would have one of the best offensive lines in football, coming off a game where he wasn't even sacked once, that Joe Burrow would be healthy, and that you would have all those things going for you, that Joe Burrow, participated in an entire preseason, and that the Bengals still started out 0-3 and 1-3, I would not have believed it. I would not have put my money on that. So, yes, that is definitely a surprise. But I'm going to go in a different direction here. Another roster that's very loaded that has just been abysmal to start is the Jacksonville Jaguars. And maybe saying the roster's loaded, maybe I'm being giving them a little bit too much credit. But the Jacksonville Jaguars should not be 0-4. When you paid Trevor Lawrence what you did, and you look at the weapons they have on the offensive side of the ball, and I like what they have on defense, and I like Doug Peterson, I'm just trying to figure out what the heck is happening in Jacksonville, because it's one thing when you lose, when you don't have a lot of talent on your roster and you're losing and you've expected to lose. But I think there's nothing more dejecting than when you have talent on the roster, when you've spent money on your roster and you're not coming away with wins. I think that, that one reason why I'm so disappointed in Cleveland is because of that. They should not be as bad as what they have been. But Jacksonville being 0-4, I think that has to be one of the bigger AFC surprises as well.
I agree, and I was out on Trevor going into the season.
Yeah.
I still did not ever imagine they would be this bad. So,
horrible.
Yeah, they're a really, really bad team, and ETN got banged up this last week, and yeah, I don't know where they go from here, honestly, because the guy that was supposed to kind of turn around their pass rush, Trayvon Walker, is nothing. Does he even play football? And the guy that went number 2 is pretty dang good up in Detroit. So
paid a lot of money to Christian Kirk to not use him. So
yeah,
it's a tough situation in Jacksonville.
I don't know who could have predicted a receiving core of Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, and a rookie wasn't going to look great, though.
Yeah,
that's certainly a shocker to everyone.
That's fair. I will say this. This is where the paying the quarterback because you have to thing. Because if you have a serviceable quarterback in today's NFL, you pretty much have to pay him. This is starting to be the exception of why you don't do that. Because Trevor Lawrence is not going to live up to that
because
contract.
the market's the market, right?
Market's the market.
That's the worst. That's a terrifying spot to be in.
There's just no way they thought he was the guy after the past couple of years. He was a fine quarterback. He's going to be serviceable in the NFL, but he's not a top 10. He'll never be a top 10, top 15 quarterback. I just don't think so. So I've seen enough. I've seen enough of the Jaguars to eliminate him from postseason contention. Pretty much forever.
What about you, like Trevor Lawrence? We thought all the tools were there. Is there something there? I mean, like we're watching the reemergence of Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. I know they'll probably be a part of our conversation coming up out of the NFC, but like we're watching guys that many people had kind of given up on. Baker, people gave up on. People gave up on. Obviously Sam Darnold, 2 high draft picks. Baker, number 1 overall pick, as Trevor Lawrence as we sit here right now. But is there anything left in that tank? I think he's an NFL quarterback, no doubt. But it's like as far as being the guy to lead Jacksonville through this, I don't know. I don't know what to make of.
Well, he's got to be. They don't really have a choice. So if he's not, then they're just going to be treading water for 5 years. I think, honestly, talking about T-Law right now, I think his ceiling is about what the Bengals got out of Andy Dalton, which is crazy to talk about a number one overall pick that was viewed as one of the better prospects of all time. But I can't imagine Trevor Lawrence getting any higher than winning the division a few times and losing in the playoffs. That's about the peak I could see him going, and paying him $55 million, that's not a great place to be.
Let's transition over to the NFC now. Again, we just discussed our biggest AFC surprises. But out of the NFC, I think there's a couple easy, low-hanging fruit options here. We'll start from right to left on this one. The biggest surprise out of the NFC for you, Jacob, is what?
I'll take the easy one. It was a team I believed in coming into the season. I was a guy at quarterback that I thought was going to be able to succeed with these weapons, and it's the Vikings. I think they're the most surprising team in the entire league. I think what they've been able to do so far at 4-0 and not beating bad teams, they've been incredibly impressive. Sam Darnold, who's to say he's not the MVP right now? I mean, a 23-17 win against the 49ers, then turning around, thrashing the Texans, and then gutting out a win against a Packers team that had just gotten Jordan Love back. I don't know that you could ask for much more out of this Vikings offense. And a lot of the eyes have been focused on Sam Darnold and how great he's been with Justin Jefferson and just getting Jordan Addison back finally this week, throwing 2 touchdowns to him. TJ Hawkinson down the pipe. They're going to get healthier. They're going to get better. But I don't think enough focus has been given to what Brian Flores has done with that defense. They lost to Neil Hunter, who's been the stalwart in the middle of that defensive line for as long as I can remember. And if you listen to this show long enough, you know Casey and I both say that the defensive side of the football, you can't do anything if you don't have guys in the trenches. And losing a guy like Daniil Hunter, that's hard to bounce back from. And they've been able to do it without really missing a beat, signing Jonathan Grenard and having him just take off in his first couple of games there. The disguises on defense, they made C.J. Stroud look as human as he's looked in a long time in the NFL. And that's something that I think can't be glossed over. They've been incredible. Sam Darnold's been incredible, and I really do think that they're the best team maybe in the entire NFL right now. When you combine Kevin O'Connell on offense and Brian Flores on defense, I don't know what team's play callers on both sides of the ball I would take right now over them.
The Buccaneers have beaten the Eagles 33-16. They beat the Commanders 37-20, and they've beaten the Lions on the road 20-16. They're 3-1. I did not think the Buccaneers would look like this. I did not think Baker Mayfield would come back around for year 2 with Tampa and be just as good, and he's been arguably better. So that's my biggest surprise. I think they've been absolutely phenomenal. The Vikings would have been my pick for the record, but the Buccaneers being as good as they have been this season, it's something to watch.
Anything else outside of those two, Casey, that pop out to you out of the NFC?
I think there's one more.
I mean, there's one more, and it's perfect Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
The Commanders, I mean, they're a legit offense right now. Probably much to be desired on defense, but 3-1 speaks for itself. I think they're a legit team, a legit contender for the playoffs. And they might even be the best team in the NFC East, to be honest with you. I think what we've seen so far out of the Eagles is pretty poor. Same with the Cowboys and Commanders, man. When you have a quarterback that just is near perfect, what more can you ask for? I mean, it's the biggest surprise in the NFL so far.
They're the only team in that division without a coach on the hot seat. It's a first-year head coach. I mean, Brian Dable's certainly coaching for his job every single week, and I know Cowboys and Eagles fans want to fire their guy and go hire Belichick right now. So I think Dan Quinn's doing a great job, and their defense has been so bad, and he's just pulling them up to Dan Quinn defense level, it seems like.
Yeah.
And they're just being okay, which is really all they need to do with Jay Daniels going to be perfect.
Yeah, and I wanted to – for me, because I was high on the Commanders coming into the season, I would not have put them as a surprise team, but I think I expected Jay Daniels to look good, but not this good. One thing I want to talk about at some point, like, have you noticed how many, like, super high completion percentage games we're getting from quarterbacks? Like, is the game being called different? I mean, we're not taking deep, aggressive shots down the field constantly. It's a lot of underneath. It's more higher percentage looks, I guess. I'm not sure. But when you look at how dominant the Commanders' offense has been, by the way, it's rare to see a team that's led by a defensive-minded head coach have as much success offensively as they have.
Well, they got a pretty good play caller.
Yes. But usually, you know what I mean, like that narrative out there that, if you have a, Bill Belichick or you have a defensive-minded coach, my mindset has always been just get a good offensive coordinator. Like, I don't know why we overcomplicate that, but good for the Commanders putting that to rest. I'm not going to put the Commanders there just because I said that they were going to be the 2024 Houston Texans, where you have that rookie quarterback coming in that just kind of brings some fresh vibes into the locker room, and that's what I feel is happening here. Again, there's just enough talent to be effective. No one was looking at them coming in as being a legit contender, and you're right. I think they're the best team in the NFC East. 1 month in, a lot can change. 1 month in,
a lot more can change. Yeah.
My big surprise out of the NFC, and I know you're not going to agree with this, but I'm not a Caleb Williams guy as of right now. 4 weeks in, I think that, and let me not make it just solely about him, but the Chicago Bears as a whole. I love the roster makeup coming into the season, and you look at the fact that they have DJ Moore. You go out and you add another big piece in free agency in the wide receiver room, and then you go draft a Dunze, and you add Swift. You have Swift, and then you look at what they have on the defensive side of the ball. They were solid defensively last year. I like the overall makeup of the Chicago Bears coming in, and you look at the pressure that was put on Caleb Williams because of the dominant rookie season that C.J. Stroud had. Well, maybe you could just say, well, C.J. Stroud, that was just a one-off, that was just, it's not going to happen all the time. I think what's making Chicago even more of a surprise is the dominance of the Washington Commanders, because while no one was looking at the Commanders and no one was putting Jaden Daniels in that conversation with Caleb Williams, this is why I'm impatient with rookie quarterbacks, and I think the league is as a whole now, because these guys are coming in as good as ever. And I'm not saying they should come in as finished products, but you should come in and be able to make an impact right off the bat. We watched it with C.J. Stroud. The Bengals knew with Joe Burrow right off the bat. The Bengals as a whole wasn't very good his rookie year, but you saw it. You knew right away. Caleb Williams, there's still a lot of uncertainty. And why isn't the offense clicking in Chicago? It's not a lack of weapons. It's a lack of production. Is it coaching? Coaching's been a problem in Chicago in the past, but you get a new GM, you get a new coach. It looked like you're rolling in a new direction. I don't get it with Chicago. For me, that's why I have them as a big surprise, more so for negative reasons than anything.
I think coaching
not the head coach, but yeah.
Coaching's such a big thing, and you're seeing that with Sam Darnold. You're seeing that with Baker Mayfield. You're seeing that all around the league right now. You can win games with not top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. Saying that, you saw it with Justin Fields in Chicago. It just didn't work, and I think a lot of it had to do with coaching. It's kind of working in Pittsburgh because he goes to Mike Tomlin, who's a very good head football coach in the NFL. I'm not going to be out on Caleb Williams yet, but I do agree with you, Kenner, that it hasn't looked good.
We're 4 weeks in, 1 month into the season. That was our biggest surprise out of the AFC, biggest surprise out of the NFC. I will say this, though. I wouldn't be surprised if 1 more month from now when we do this again, I'm not sure how sustainable Baker and Sam Darnold are over a full season as far as being at this level. Sam Darnold, you're right, MVP conversation now. I don't know if it's sustainable for a full season, but I also said in the summer there's no way the Vikings were going to win a damn thing with Sam Darnold as their starting quarterback.
That's what I said too.
Sustainable? I don't know, but it's been a fun – in years past, we've seen Kyler Murray be an MVP candidate 1-2 months into a season. Same thing with Tua. It's a long season, but I am curious, 1 more month from now, 2 months into the season, what will some of the narratives that are existing now in this conversation, how many of them will still exist then? I don't know. Will Jay Daniels still be the big talking story, the big feel-good story 2 months into the season? Will Sam Darnold still look like this 2 months into the season? we've seen at least Baker and the Bucs win over a full season, so there's a little bit more comfortability there. But yeah, I am interested to see if some of these narratives turn around 4 more weeks into the season from here.
Worried about Darnold for sure. I wouldn't necessarily put Baker in that same category just because we've seen him play at a high level before. He did it in Cleveland. He's done it in Tampa before. This is really the first time we're seeing this out of Darnold. So definitely a worry with him. But I do think the Buccaneers are legit. And I think it's going to come back to what we talked about with the Falcons for so long, that the NFC South is just terrible. I think one of those two teams is going to end up with a pretty really good record just because of, the rest of the games again in that division. I don't think the Saints are very good, and I don't think the Panthers are very good.
All right, off the bench. I know we're going to step away for a few. Casey has some housekeeping items and ad reads. We'll get to all of that coming up. And then coming up, Elly in the Outfield. It's one of my new favorite movies. I love watching Elly in the Outfield. But we had the Hall of Famer Marty Brennaman on the show this past Friday, and of course he brought the heat as he always does. And he took some heat on social media for a couple of his takes, including his biggest take through that whole conversation. Elly in the Outfield. That's what he wants. We'll have that clip and the conversation coming up for you around the corner, plus college football. We have Tissett's. I don't think I've ever called you by your last name, so that was weird.
Well, you guys are the only people in my entire life that don't. So
is really?
Oh, yeah, my mother calls me Tissett.
When people call me Justin, it's weird to me because everyone calls me by my last name. But nonetheless, so all right. So we got Tissett's top 10. We got a new thing.
Yeah,
Tissett's top 10.
Better alliteration.
We got a lot to get into. I can't wait for Tissett's top 10 coming up in just a little bit.
You guys will never guess who's number 1.
Yeah, Elly in the Outfield, Tissett's top 10. That's what we'll close out with on radio. More off the bench when we come back.
All right, it's that time again. Time to pay the bills around here, folks. Pawnee Water, made right here in Hamilton, Ohio, uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that other brands use. The result being a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNIwater.com so you can buy this great tasting water. No rocks in this water. You ready for this? Oh.
Damn it, the one I didn't record.
What a
I've
terrible
recorded
throw.
These for days, and the
Are
one
you
I didn't
serious?
record, yes.
You threw it at the mic stand.
You threw it. It was a terrible throw, and it was not rotating the right way.
Man.
It was just really on you.
Cool.
It's really
Had it in your hands.
You threw a lame duck.
If you touch it, you catch it. That's what I've
If you
always
touch
I
it,
had
you
to-
catch it.
I had to go like right here.
That's a terrible throw. Just preposterous throw. You got to get better. You got to get in the lab.
Redo.
Hit the weight room.
get the Pawnee Water.
Get the Pawnee
Get the
water.
Pawnee water.
Flip it back to you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's
It's
an outrageous look. See how you throw?
Okay, here we go. You ready?
See
You
how
ready?
you throw.
You ready?
Yeah.
Is this going to be a duck, too?
Well, I'm throwing with my left hand. So
Well, sounds like an excuse to me. Great catch. Still a questionable
Bad throw. That was me making a play.
That's right.
That's why
it was
you.
above your
Big time
head.
players make big time plays in big time moments, and that's right now.
Love it.
Pawnee Water. No rocks in that water.
Luckily, because someone's going to get hit in the head.
The
snack
Bengals
that
report.
smiles back.
Bengals Report, proudly sponsored by Encore Technologies. At Encore, they deliver cutting-edge IT solutions for a data-driven world. From mobile computing and desktop support to advanced data center solutions, they help businesses enhance efficiency and
Productivity.
Yeah.
PRODUCTIVITY.
Woo.
That's right. Visit encore.tech where your path to innovation begins. Game Time, the ticketing sponsor app that we have here at Chatterbox Sports. Love Game Time. I used it all summer long for Reds games. I have used it now for some FC games. We'll probably use it for some Bengals games. They always have great prices, lowest prices guaranteed. And you get to see exactly where you're sitting at when you're choosing your tickets. You can use the Game Time pick filters to help kind of fluff out, to get out all the fluff, to see only the incredible deals that they have, and see the seats that you want to see. So you're not wasting your time. And Game Time has super deals, hot deals. Those are always a great deal on. I see them a lot for like Bengals tickets, usually like primetime games and stuff like that. And those are like fantastic deals. Like $100 gets you in. Great deals. Yeah. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it, fellas?
Game time.
What time is it, Kinner?
It's game time, Casey.
What time is it, everyone?
Game time.
That's right.
That's right.
Game Time. Download today. Other housekeeping items.
Breaking news.
Okay, breaking news. Jacob.
We win. War is over. The Bengals have cut Brad Robbins.
Well, you can't,
Yes, you can. The
Disrespectful.
war is over.
Rico.
Ryan Rico was backed
Uncle
up inside
Rico.
the 10, and he punted it to the other 30. I haven't seen that in over a year. Brad Robbins would have dropped that thing off right in the midfield logo, so thank God he is gone. Michigan men get no love from me.
Brad Robbins, we thank you for your service.
I don't.
Your mustache was incredible. But
It was.
Take a game ball and
We got to take the niceness out of sports, dude.
Yeah,
Like, it's cutthroat.
When you draft a football player and their initial response is, wait, what? Not a great sign.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, what was your favorite Brad Robbins punt?
Oh, I'm out. I'm sitting this one out.
Because I don't have a favorite.
I don't
Well,
have
no,
a favorite.
not being a Bengals fan, you would have a lot
would
of
have-
favorite Brad
you would
Robbins
have to
punts
have a
because he
lot.
kicks them 10 to 15 yards.
I mean, you know me. I don't like to talk bad about the Bengals.
Mine was the December 9th punt against.
He's not paid enough to be
I'm making that
criticized,
up.
so, you know.
But good try, Brad Robbins.
yeah.
That's great.
It's the
was
thought
a good
that
try.
counts. It's a thought that counts.
Yeah.
Before
Well,
that
Uncle
breaking
Rico.
news, I had a radio break stat of the day. But I guess I can just still do it.
Well, I would just do that for the radio break.
Well, this is the break. In between the radio.
So can you not do it on the air?
Well,
You're
no,
not
I usually have.
All right, well then yeah, do it. Let's do it.
Today's Jimmy Carter's 100th birthday.
He is the first president to ever live to 100.
That's right. Is that true?
I don't know.
Well, that's not my stat. Babe Ruth hit 430 home runs after Jimmy Carter was born.
Say it again.
Babe Ruth hit 430 home runs after Jimmy Carter was born.
That's wild.
Old man.
That is wild. Other housekeeping news.
Chatterbox Bengals tonight.
Chatterbox
6 p.
Bengals tonight at 6 p.m. It's with Jacob Tissett, our good friend.
That's right.
And Craig Sandlin as well. So tune in for that, 6 p. See you guys there. Also on Thursday, Chatterbox Bengals live.
That's right.
That's at Champions Grill with an E on Work Road with an E. That's at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Then we watch Thursday Night Football.
That's
so
right.
please, if you're available, come up, see us, have some fun with us. They've got good food, they've got good drinks, good vibes, and they will be also giving away Bengals tickets to the Ravens game, I believe.
Whoop,
So everybody, please come out to that. And again, thank you all for coming to that so far, and hope to see you guys again on Thursday.
Craig wants to know why he's not a good friend.
A lot of criticism comes from you, Craig. That's why. I like my mom and my dad. Like when I get home, hey, I love you, and it's like, hey, I love you, and I say something here, and Craig's like, oh, you're wrong. And it's kind of like that. So, Craig, no disrespect at all. You're a
Respectfully, right?
It's like you're like my great godfather. That's what it is.
You have a
My
great
great
godfather?
godfather. No, but that's what Craig is now. He is the first ever great godfather. So that's
Congratulations,
Yeah,
Craig.
congratulations, Craig.
Yeah.
See you Thursday, 7 p.m.
That's right.
See you tonight at 6 p.m. Make sure to like the stream. Make sure to follow KC McAllister on Twitter.
That's right.
Make sure to unfollow Justin Kinner on Twitter.
Ooh.
And make
Not
sure
a lot of people
to
follow me anyway. Can't unfollow the followed.
Okay, and then make sure to block the Cleveland Browns on Twitter as well.
Just other little tidbits and info. I will not be here Wednesday or Thursday.
No.
I'll be there at Champions Grill. So if you want updates on what I'm doing, go ahead and follow me on Twitter. I'll give live updates on how I'm doing on my roof. Replacing it.
There you go.
Oh, your guy in here is Jacob.
Who's my guy? Oh, Ed!
Ed.
I know. Yeah, I like
he
Ed.
tweeted at you. I love Ed.
I want to
because
find Ed's Twitter so I can quote tweet him back, but I can't find him because he doesn't at me.
He doesn't at
He doesn't
Jacob.
tag me.
Is this the Bearcats guy?
He
Yeah,
just says
so-
Jacob has opinions, and he doesn't at me, so I can't find them.
So it's like I see this on my timeline. I'm pretty sure once every 3 days, where Ed will say Jacob thinks this, and it's just a bad thought that Ed makes
This
up.
one was a good
but it's
thought.
very, very funny. Yeah, this one actually was a good thought.
This one was
so-
positive for me. He said, I was happy that Larkin was out of the mix.
Yeah.
I am. First thought he's gotten right so far, I think.
Shout out Ed.
Big time shout out, Ed. If you want to start tagging me, I'll interact. We can have a
Yeah.
conversation.
But I think that's the joke.
I understand.
I think the joke is maybe that I see it.
I understand.
I don't even know who he thinks is going to see it.
Yeah.
But I'm the only one that's seeing it, and I like it.
Well, we appreciate it.
Any other housekeeping news?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think we're ready to go back to Radioland. Oh, one thing. Please hit the like button. Share the show with a friend. It helps us bring in more viewers like you. Thank you. Back to Radioland.
NL pitcher of the month, Nick Martin.
All right, and we are back off the bench.
Hey.
Justin Kinner,
Dang
Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett with you here, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, and of course in Dayton. We appreciate you tuning in on ESPN 1410 Wing AM. Last Friday, we had the Hall of Famer Marty Brennaman hang out with us a bit, of course. Last week was, a full week of reaction to, of course, the news that the Reds had fired David Bell. Not after the season, but with 5 games left. So we discussed that with the Hall of Famer Marty Brennaman as far as what to expect for off-season moves, changes, adjustments, all that fun stuff. But there's quite a few clips from that conversation that took off. No surprise, it's Marty Brennaman, right? But there's one that got people talking more than any of the other ones. And hearing Marty, like if Marty is, when Marty's hot, with his hot takes that got him into the not scuffle, but the back and forth with Ken Griffey Jr. That we don't pay Joey Votto to lead the league in on-base percentage. Like he has never shied away from having a hot take on the team's best player. And that's what he had a hot take. That's what take he had with us on Friday, involving not his opinion really necessarily on Elly De La Cruz, but more so what the Cincinnati Reds should do with Elly De La Cruz. And of course, this is what the Hall of Famer had to say. This is what he believes the Reds should do adjustment-wise with the future and the use of Elly De La Cruz. Take a listen.
Are you going to stick with De La Cruz at shortstop? I've been of the opinion for 2 years De La Cruz should go to the outfield. I don't care. He was defensively, he was an enigma because he ranked high in certain analytic categories because of his ability to cover ground at shortstop, but he also showed an insane inability to play routine balls, whether they be fielded or whether they be thrown. And I don't think you can play shortstop and make 25 to 30 errors every season and stay at that position. And I don't care who you are. So they got to make.
He doesn't care who you are. My takeaway on this, I actually don't have like a strong take on what the Reds should do as far as the position that Elly De La Cruz plays, because I think we all know the biggest, what the takeaways we have of Elly more times than not are what he does on the base paths and what he does with the bat in his hand, but obviously plays a huge role defensively, sometimes good, sometimes bad. He makes a lot of highlight plays at short, but obviously made a lot of errors there as well, but this entire roster made a lot of errors. My only pushback on the idea of having to move him because of the errors that he committed in his first full year playing there, I would be a little bit more patient. But I think the Reds are in a particular situation where, we thought that this team was going to be rebuilding heading into last season, talking about the 100 losses. Usually that's a couple-year rebuild. But it's like this team has expectations to win now. So I think, unfortunately, for players like Elly and Matt McClain and Christian Encarnacion-Strand and some of the other young ones, I don't think they're going to be given the patience as much as some other young players who are playing on bad teams. Now, I'm not saying that the Reds are good. We're talking about the playoffs later tonight. The Reds aren't a part of it, right? But I think you understand what I mean when I say the Reds are a lot closer to being a contender than they are to being a team that's still 2 or 3 years away. I think they view themselves as that. I think we're going to get a better feel for how the Reds view where they're at within this rebuild based on who they hire as a manager. If it's a young up-and-coming manager, I'm going to get the sense more of a rebuild. If they do pull off the unthinkable and get Terry Francona to lead the way, Terry Francona's not taking over a rebuild. He's taking over something that he believes he can win and win right away. I'll feel good about that. But with that being said, if it is a situation where the Reds are looking to win now, win right away, I don't think they're going to be as patient with waiting for Elly to kind of navigate through, playing shortstop. I'm not saying I'm advocating for him to be moved to the outfield, but I also don't think he's good enough at shortstop for us to say that no way do you move him to the outfield. There's just no way you move him to the outfield. He's not good enough at short for us to say that. You also got to not just simplify it by looking at Elly's progression as a player by himself. It's, what makes the Reds better? Because we're sitting here talking about a team that does, even though we thought had a lot of depth at middle infield heading into the season, they were scrounging obviously throughout the year, losing a lot of that depth in the middle infield. But they do have options in middle infield. It's not as if they have to force feed Elly at short. I think we all want Elly to be there. It feels bigger when your superstar player is playing at short, no doubt about it. But at the same time, I'm up for Elly in the outfield. I'm up for Elly at third, second base, short. I don't really care where Elly plays. I want to tune in to watch what he does with the bat in his hand and watch what he does when he gets on base. But when I did watch him defensively last year, he made a lot of highlight plays, but he also made a lot of errors. So I just don't think the guy's good enough for any of us to actually say, oh, there's no way you move him from short. I know that people do have takes on this. I know I'm going to, some will disagree with my take on that, and that's fine. That's why I'm curious to hear what Jacob and the other guys have to say on this. But when you hear the Hall of Famer, when you hear Marty Brennaman say he's been of the mind that they should move him to the outfield, that you can't win games with him long-term, making 28 to 30 errors a season, your thoughts on that when you heard that clip from Marty Brennaman?
I disagree that he's not good enough to play shortstop. I think he's more than good enough to play shortstop. In fact, I think statistically speaking, I think he's one of the best shortstops in Major League Baseball.
Top 5 defender.
Top 5 defender in Major League Baseball. The error number is a little bit skewed. I know nobody wants to see whatever it was, 29, 28 errors on the stat sheet, and there were a couple times where there's a couple boneheaded plays. But those happen, and it's in a 162-game season where you play a majority of the season. Silly mistakes happen. If you're on the belief that silly mistakes will happen at short, wouldn't you also be on the side that silly mistakes will happen in the outfield? Because wouldn't that make sense, right?
I mean, do you think he can't catch a fly ball?
Well, he hasn't at short.
But I'm just saying, like, if you think that he's unable to field a routine grounder, what makes you think he's going to field a routine?
It's not that I think. We watched it a lot.
But he's an elite defender.
Sure, and this is where this argument kind of gets a little bit stale for me, because I really don't care that much. I think Elly De La Cruz in the outfield would be a top 5 outfielder in Major League Baseball. I think Elly De La Cruz.
I think he'd be great wherever.
Huh?
I think he'd be great wherever.
Correct.
Right?
I think he'd be a top 5 shortstop. I think he'd be a top 5 third baseman. I think he's a good defender. I think he has silly mistakes, and I point him out too, and I laugh at him. But at the end of the day, we know what he is defensively, and if he's not at shortstop, who is there? Who's our shortstop? Matt McClain? How many games are we going to get out of Matt McClain next year? Do you know? Because I don't know, and I'm not going to bet on it. I know Elly De La Cruz is going to be there every day. I know he's been healthy for his young career so far.
You're always healthy till you're not.
Huh?
I mean, I don't like talking health because you're only healthy till you're not. Like,
sure, 100%.
You can't project injuries.
100%. But with this team, you have to talk about it because who's the replacement? Who's going to get better at shortstop than Elly De La Cruz for this roster? Mm-hmm. And my answer to that is nobody as of right now. Nobody's a better shortstop than Elly De La Cruz. I think T.J. Friedel's a solid center fielder. That's where you would play Elly De La Cruz. And could you move T.J. to right or left? Sure. But I think the defensive construction right now with Elly at short and T.J. in center, that works. And I don't know who the replacement would be. The error thing, I get it. I get the frustration. But again, I don't know what the analytics exactly are. He's the top 5. Was it outs above replacement or whatever it is?
Outs above average.
Outs above average. Sorry. There's a very few shortstops out there, or even outfielders or anybody in general, better than what Elly De La Cruz has been this season defensively. So that's my argument against it. Saying that, if the Reds moved him to the outfield, my only concern is the health thing, because I think there's more areas of concern for injuries out in center field than there are at shortstop. And I want Elly De La Cruz to be playing as many games as possible.
Yeah, I would be beyond angry if the Reds moved Elly off of shortstop. I think third base is a completely different question than the outfield. I think that's a little bit more reasonable, but I think moving Elly De La Cruz to the outfield after what we just saw this year, which is one of the best seasons a shortstop in a Reds uniform has ever put together, would be insane. He's a 22-year-old who is incredibly comfortable playing shortstop, and he was an elite defender while leading the league in errors. He finished top He finished 98th percentile, plus 14 outs above average at shortstop, 15.9 defensive value. That's 6th in the MLB. That's a top 5 defender at the position in his first full season there. He was top 10 in WAR. He was top 50 in WRC plus. These are all things that if your offensive side of the game will be affected by moving to a new position on defense. You have to get comfortable. We talked about it with Jonathan India a ton. How is his back going to be affected when we move him to the outfield and he has to learn how to play a new position? How is that not going to be any different with Elly? He's the best player on the team by a wide margin. He proved that he is an incredible defender even when he's not making routine plays. So what happens when he makes a third of the errors he missed? He's going to be the best defender in baseball. I don't know why you would move a young player who plays the most valuable position on the field defensively to a position that's less valuable with a higher risk of injury. It just doesn't make sense to me.
And again, this is why I brought up the fact that because the Reds are more – like if Elly's playing on a very bad Reds team and they're years out from being worth a damn – well, there's no discussion about it. You just let them navigate through it. I think the urgency of, we need, the least amount of mistakes made at a certain position, blah,
but
blah,
what
blah.
is he navigating through?
But, I know this is where the calculator comes out, and then we tell guys like Marty Brennaman that they don't understand baseball, and I totally disagree with that. This is where the advanced analytics, that we bring those out just to tell a story that we wanted to tell when we watch baseball, and we see a lot of errors committed at short.
His defense was great this year.
But so errors don't matter. We got rid of David Bell because of too many errors and too many mistakes that are made, but what we're going to act like is not a big deal when our shortstop makes them. And I think you think that I'm advocating for this. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I see both sides. I definitely do not think Elly, though, is dominant enough to say that he is untouchable at a certain position as far as that's concerned.
There's not two shortstops. There are two shortstops I would take above Elly De La Cruz in the MLB right now to start at shortstop. And I just don't know why you would move a 22-year-old who was an elite defender at that position this year to
Can you be elite and commit 25 to 30 errors a season?
Gunnar Henderson committed 25 errors.
So then are we just saying errors don't matter?
Yes.
Then don't fire your manager for errors and mistakes.
I said don't fire David Bell.
Said we were all on that.
We all said don't fire David Bell.
But I'm just saying that's not how baseball's viewed, though, unfortunately.
My thing is, the Reds have...
I think it's not. David Bell would still be the manager.
The Reds have 3 positions that are set going forward next year. They have the catcher, you have center fielder, and you have shortstop. Those are our 3 set positions. I don't know where anybody else is going to play next year. I don't. If Matt McClain's healthy, he plays second, I think. So outside of those 3, we're talking about moving 2 of the set ones. I don't understand the point of that. O'Neal Cruz had 26 errors. Gunnar Henderson, 25 errors. Willie Adames, 20 errors. These are good players, and they play shortstop.
And they still don't cover as much ground as Elly.
And Elly still is so much more valuable. I understand. I really do. I get, because I don't like exit velo. I don't like a lot of the advanced analytics. Maybe it's my unwillingness to change. But saying that, what's the better option at shortstop? There is none. There is not one better option at shortstop next season for the Cincinnati Reds.
Let me ask you this.
Unless they want to go out and spend money, which we all know in here they will not do.
And who are you going to sign that's better than that?
But hold up. This is the thing.
Probably
sometimes, though, big picture, though, whether your opinion on what – we need to include Jonathan India in this conversation, not playing it short. Just hold on and hear me out. Jonathan India's future with this team will impact what they might tinker with as far as what they're willing to do with the middle infield. Because if they are going to keep Jonathan India long term, many people don't believe that they will, but many people believe they thought he would have been moved at last year's deadline, the deadline before that, the offseason before that. He still keeps coming back. There's just something about the front office and him that they aren't ready to pull the trigger on moving. If they don't move on from him, now you have a backlog of guys that you don't know what to do with as far as that's concerned. And one way to alleviate that is moving him into the outfield, and then you can have all those guys participating and playing at one time. That is something that I have also looked at as being one of the reasons why they could potentially look at that as well. I know you're getting tight-jawed and angry at a different opinion than yours over there, but I'm just saying,
you just move the best player out of the 3 players. The only guy that's shown consistent ability to play elite baseball you want to move. When one guy who hasn't played well and one guy who hasn't played at all.
And we're not. I don't think.
Sure things.
And I don't think Jacob's saying it. I don't think I'm saying it. Do we want Elly to improve next season? Yeah, 100%. Can he improve?
He's perfect.
Can he improve? No, nobody said he was perfect.
I never said he was perfect.
Top 30, there's only 2 other shortstops that are better.
Right, and if he improves, he'll be the best in the sport.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if Elly De La Cruz improves the defense, which we all think he can, then yeah, he will be the best shortstop in Major League Baseball, maybe the best defender in all Major League Baseball. I get it. I just don't want to see it happen. Not right now.
The fact that people view this Elly season as anything short of one of the best Reds seasons of all time blows my mind. And that's where I stand with Elly right now. The conversation that this is a fine season that needs a massive steps of improvement, this is one of the greatest seasons in Reds history by an individual player. A top 5 Reds season since 2000. I just don't see these massive steps that he has to take that other people are talking about.
Sean Connor actually with a good stat, and I'm going to trust him that that's true because he's led me astray before. McClain made only one error in 53 games at shortstop
And I
last
bet
season.
Like, advanced metrics aren't as good as Elly's still.
Probably not. But saying that, that's a fair point. I think Matt McClain is a great defender if he's available to play. If the option is move Matt to short and Elly goes to center, maybe we can have a discussion one day. But I need Matt McClain to stay healthy and be available to play baseball before I start telling them to move positions and move our star shortstop out into the outfield. That's what I would need to see happen. If anybody wants to go on further in this discussion with me, I need Matt McClain to be healthy and available to play. I know it's not fair to talk about injuries. I get it. You can't talk about hypotheticals. But I saw what happened this season, and I don't think there's a better option right now at shortstop if Matt McClain is unable to play 140-plus baseball games.
And to be clear, it's not like I'm advocating that the Reds need to move him to the outfield. I just don't think it's as silly as a talking point as what some want to make it out to be. But this is that clash of this is a perfect example of a clash of where those advanced analytics come into play to where we're going to tell guys like Marty Brennaman, who have been around the game longer than we've been alive, that you don't know what you're talking about because my calculator said that -2 + 5 divided by a balloon times the 65 stars in the sky when the moon's out on a Tuesday said you're wrong, Marty. Like that's where I like that's where I kind of get into the conflict, or with that conflict that comes in from that perspective.
Can I ask you this? And this is my biggest. It's not even the advanced analytics. It's not the errors. It's not any of that. Do you or do you not believe that Elly De La Cruz has a better chance to get injured out in the outfield than he does at shortstop? Because that's where I am. I don't want Elly De La Cruz out there because I know injuries happen out there in the outfield.
When there was that talk briefly, when Joey Votto was still at the Reds, about Tyler Stevenson, when the DH was added, about where were you when the conversation came up about moving him from behind the plate to first base?
I moved him to first base.
You were fine with that?
100%
Okay.
I was.
So you're consistent, and that's fine.
And
that's
the
fair.
reason he didn't, to be fair to him, is because A, he's a solid catcher,
Yep.
and B, because he can make more money as a catcher. And that's 100%, that's fine on him. But yeah, I want to see Tyler Stevenson's bat. So if he's not going to be able to play
And be
behind
at first,
home
be
plate,
more readily available.
move him to first. That's 100% right.
All right, and that's a fair point from that perspective.
My whole thing is
I just don't. I try not to operate out of fear of guys getting hurt because it's going to happen no matter what. Elly's been pretty durable so far, so that's the one thing. Maybe it's because he's playing in the infield, and maybe that helps. But
my whole thing is health. I need my guys to stay as healthy as possible. If we want to talk about moving Elly to third one day, Matt goes to short, I'm fine with all of that. I really am. But Elly is 22 years old. This will improve. I'm not going to freak out over 29 errors when Gunnar Henderson, arguably a top 3 player in the American League this year, top 5 player in the American League, had 4 less errors. So I'm gonna stay calm. I'd like Elly to be at short next year. Well, let's see what happens. Let's see if he improves. He's a good defender. Let's see if he doesn't. If he gets worse, which I don't think will happen. Maybe at age 23 we say, all right, maybe let's tinker with the infield. But as of right now, today on welcome to October. On October 1st, as of October 1st, 2024, I'm not interested in moving Elly De La Cruz.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah,
you're right.
I just want the Reds to win.
This is a protest at GABP level issue for me.
What?
This is a protest at GABP level issue for me.
I could
tell. Could you imagine?
The jaw tightens, dude. I could tell when I was I could
this-
tell Jake's take already, or Tissett's take.
I want to paint this picture for you.
Paint it, dude.
And here's the thing. I don't want this to happen. I'm not advocating for this to happen, but I've been a Reds fan for 25 years, and I've seen no goodness. So, Elly De La Cruz is in center field. Let's say hypothetically they move him out there. He's running at 200 miles an hour to left field. Out comes Spencer Steer. It's Elly's ball. It's Spencer Steer's ball. They collide. Elly's knee pops out. We don't have Elly De La Cruz for an entire year. I know that situation doesn't happen at shortstop. That's what I'm petrified of if you move him out into the outfield. I think he could be the greatest outfielder the world's ever seen. But
we cut Spencer Steer on that day, by the way.
Well, we couldn't because Elly certainly need bodies. But my point is, keep the roster as healthy as possible. And if that's playing Elliott shortstop at a high level, top 5 shortstop defensively against the analytics, then I'm fine with that.
All right. And by the way, I see people saying, Kenner, you better knock on wood. Everyone, we're all knocking on wood.
I'm not wishing that on Ellie. Ellie's been healthy. God bless America. God bless Ellie. Knock on all the wood.
All right, Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We got Tissett's College Football Top 10 coming up next. We'll be right back. All right, and we welcome you back. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN 1410, Wing AM in Dayton. We appreciate you. Just a reminder, hit the like button. Like. I promise you, it doesn't mean you're liking me. It just means you're liking the show.
Yeah.
The show has been around before I was here. The show will be around whenever I'm gone. I promise you that just like the show. It's all about the show. It's not
Are you
about
quitting
me.
already?
No. I'm not even close to quitting.
Oh, good. I just want to make sure. You scared me.
Is that a threat?
Every host, they come in here and they quit immediately.
They do.
So I hear that threat, and I'm like, oh, my God.
I've already outstayed the over, I think.
I think you did.
You know? So, luckily, gas is cheaper now, too, so that helps,
Yeah.
Nonetheless. College football, obviously coming out of this past weekend, I think the week before we didn't get to much college football because, of course, you had the David Bell news on that Monday, and then the Bengals play Monday Night Football, and then all of a sudden you're turning your attention towards the next week's games. But as we sit here on a Tuesday, what a wild week it was in college football. Of course, you were in Alabama.
I was.
You were watching the Crimson Tide taking care of business against old Georgia, as far as that's concerned. But before we get to your top 10, just overall takeaways from the weekend that was in college football. We're a month and some change into this season now. Things starting to heat up. Some of the bigger matchups coming into play. Ohio State has Oregon a week from Saturday. We just watched Alabama and Georgia play. These were the matchups that I initially was like, you know what? The 12-team playoff's going to ruin the vibe of these because, that Georgia-Alabama game theoretically should eliminate someone from the playoffs. And it hasn't even come literally, the loser of that, it doesn't even matter. Georgia, their playoff chances are still as strong as what they've ever been, so it doesn't matter. Ohio State, Oregon, when they play here, a week from Saturday, that's not an elimination game from the playoff. It's going to position you better for the Big Ten championship, no doubt. But that's the only thing I was kind of bummed about the 12-team playoff. But overall, I'm not going to lie, it still has humongous big game feels, as you were there this past Saturday.
Yeah, no, the games have still been great. I was, very vocally anti-12-team playoff, and as of right now, it doesn't seem to have affected it very much, but I do think when we see these big-time games happen a second and third time in the season, that's when it's going to really start to have effects on the sport, and just not having as much of a meaningful game when you have a chance to knock someone out, when you're just going to see them again in December or January. I fully expect Alabama and Georgia to meet one or two more times, play 2 or 3 times in the season, which is just not something that I like college football-wise, but certainly gives more teams a shot at a championship. There were a lot of great games in college football this week. I know obviously Alabama-Georgia was the marquee game, but a lot of other scares around the country and just honestly big-time teams that did not perform. And the one that obviously jumps off the page most is Ole Miss. Ole Miss fell to a Kentucky team that has not been able to move the ball offensively all year. Kentucky went into the Grove and won the game. Ole Miss kicker missed a field goal at the end of the game, 20-17. 17 points for an offense that hadn't been able to be stopped all year long is just insane. So Ole Miss, again, losing to an unranked Kentucky team does not really change their season at all. Puts a little bit more pressure on some of the big-time games, but they play a fairly easy schedule. They probably can still lose one more and get in. So who knows exactly what the ripple effects will be of that. But a big story that's seemingly been brushed under the rug a little bit is the Michigan win against Minnesota this weekend. Down 3 at the end of the game, Minnesota had an onside kick that they recovered.
Yeah.
Minnesota recovered the onside kick.
I watched this game.
The ref called Minnesota offsides. He wasn't. Big Ten reached out to PJ Fleck after the game, said it was far too close to call, should not have been a penalty in this situation. And then last night, the Big Ten changed the way they officiate onside kicks. They got a waiver from the NCAA to change where they position officials for onside kicks, because that's how you know they got to call it wrong, if you're going to change the rules right away. So Michigan escapes with a 3-point win at home. They're a team at this point who I don't really know what to think of them because they are just winning still, but they look like crap every single week.
Like the Steelers.
the Steelers look way better. They threw for 30 yards and beat a top 10 team. Mm-hmm. I don't understand how it's possible, but they continue to keep finding a way to do it. The Big 12's devolving into God knows what. Kansas State looks like they're okay, but Utah fell, Oklahoma State fell, Baylor, fell to BYU, and all these teams that were supposed to be at the top of the Big 12, making it maybe a 2-bid league, maybe even a 3-bid league, picking up losses very, very early in the year. So certainly just a 1-bid conference champion. Then this brings us back to the talking point of, are we sure all 4 of those conference champions need a bye? Because whoever wins the Big 12 is certainly not going to be deserving of a first-round bye. There's going to be a lot of teams that are much, much better than that Big 12 champion. But alas, with the current rules of the game, they're going to get that bye. But the one last thing I want to talk about, just as an overview of college football and where it's at now, a few weeks into the season, everyone knows about Jalen Milroe and Carson Beck and Will Howard, Jeremiah Smith, all these big names at big-time schools that are in the mix for the Heisman Trophy and at the top of it. But a guy that is getting a lot of national attention now, but not nearly as much as maybe he should be. Ashton Jeanty, the running back for Boise State, has put together an unbelievable season so far. 82 carries through the first 4 games of the season. So just 20 carries a game. Not even an absurd number of carries. Usually when you see the numbers like this, you expect 30 carries a game or something crazy like that. But just 20 carries a game, 82 carries for 845 yards and 13 touchdowns through 4 weeks. That's unbelievable. 2 games over 250 yards, a game at 192 against top 10 Oregon, and then 127 and no touchdowns against Portland State when he only played a half. So he's only played 3.5 games so far this year. He's pushing 1,000 yards with 13 touchdowns. Ashton Jeanty, a really, really special player, running back at Boise State, and they're going to be comfortably in the mix for that Group of 5 playoff spot. But obviously a lot of upsets this weekend. I'll run through the current top 10 quickly. My top 10, as we get into this level of the season, it has a lot of similarities with the APs. In the early weeks of the season, you can make some hot takes, move some teams around. But as ranked teams start playing ranked teams and conference opponents start playing conference opponents, it's a little harder to nitpick those rankings as they come more into focus. But starting at number 10, I have to put Michigan there because they beat USC. But I firmly believe USC is the 10th best team in the country. So I'm going to put him as a slash.
Okay.
Michigan slash USC.
Okay.
Because you have to honor the win in a head-to-head matchup. But Michigan is going to lose this weekend to Washington in Washington. So after that, USC is going to take that 10th spot.
Are you sure they're going to lose?
100%. No question about it. So
clip that.
Yeah, clip that. Go ahead. More than welcome. So USC, Michigan, backslash at 10. Which, honestly, at this point, Michigan, how long are they going to be able to withstand this? I mean, it's a blown offsides call on an onside kick that allows them to beat a Minnesota team. They throw for under 50 yards to beat a USC team. This level of winning football is not sustainable. Their defense has to play at a level that's just so otherworldly that they can't do it.
Could you imagine if they beat Ohio State this year?
Oh, I'm starting to get a little nervous because I just don't know what that means if Ohio State loses to Michigan this week. But as of now, Michigan is a top 10 team in the country. Number 9. School that I have not respected at all, even remotely, yet this year, but they just keep winning.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put them in the top 10. Missouri. Missouri might have the best receiver in the country in Luther Burden. They've looked very, very good this year on the offensive side of the ball, and they're going to slide into the number 9 spot. It's the first time they've been in the top 10 so far this year for me, and that's because I just don't think they're that good. I don't think Brady Cook's very good. I don't think their defense is very good, and that's why they haven't been there yet. But they keep winning, so they're going to be there now. At number 8 is another team with a quarterback I don't trust even remotely, but they again keep winning. And at this point in the season, when other top 10 teams lose, they have to be in there. Penn State.
Oh, okay.
Penn State. Drew Aller is not very good, but I'm putting him at 8. I think they're going to be able to do enough to win a lot of games. They have their whiteout coming up, and I think they'll obviously win that now that they've moved that off of the Ohio State or Michigan game every year. They have a chance to win that game now, and hopefully they take advantage. But, yeah, I think Penn State's a fine team. I think as we advance into the college football season, it's important to note that with this new conference realignment, there's just not going to be a whole lot of undefeated teams, one-loss teams. Like everyone's going to have blemishes on their record, probably pretty early in the season. So we'll see how these shake out as the season goes on. But Penn State at 8. Number 7, the team that struggled earlier in the year but has really pulled together lately, and that's Oregon. Dylan Gabriel, the Heisman favorite coming into the year. He's getting his legs under him. He's finding his groove a little bit, and that's really important for Oregon. That offense looked lackluster, to say the least, in the first few weeks, trailing early in games, having to come back. But now they look pretty good, and they're starting to put it together a little bit, and that's really scary if you're an Ohio State fan going to Eugene in a week. So that's going to be a big-time game to see what those two teams are made of, two teams that really haven't played very many really good teams so far this year. We'll see what those two teams are made of next week.
If Ohio State, I know I've asked you this before, if Ohio State played Alabama this year in the national championship, who are you rooting for?
This year makes it tough because I love Milroe so much.
I know.
When Milroe leaves, I'm going to be all the way back
On Ohio
to
State.
Buckeyes.
But
I love him so much.
But this year.
I would kill to win a national championship with him. I think it would be Bama.
Oh, no.
I don't know.
Jacob's leaving the
I don't
Ohio
know.
State fandom.
I don't know.
He's cheering for Oregon this week.
Oh, definitely not that. Definitely not that. Well, I do think it'd be better for Ohio State's national championship chances to lose this weekend, but that's a different story.
Okay.
It's hard to beat a team twice, and you have to play them again in Indianapolis. But number 6, a team that struggled over the weekend, won on a very questionable call. Miami, sticking in my top 10. They're going to be number 6. Cam Ward is the number 2 Heisman favorite right now behind Jalen Milroe. He's looked very good so far this season, second in the country in touchdowns. And I think the offense is good enough that they're going to be able to get it going. Mario Cristobal is a good coach, and as long as they don't have to manage the clock at the end of any of these games, they should be okay. So I'm really high on Miami, and that's also part of the factor of how bad I think the rest of the ACC is. They're pretty bad, and I think Miami's going to win that conference relatively easily. So Miami's coming in at 6. Number 5, we get into an SEC-heavy part of the rankings here. Number 5 is Tennessee. I think Nico Iamaleava's way too good to have them any lower than this. Alabama goes to Tennessee this year, and I'm incredibly nervous about that game. He's a very, very special player at quarterback, and Josh Heupel's offense is one of the best college offenses we've seen in some time. So I think Tennessee's a very, very good team this year. Those gray uniforms are all time, and if they wear those a lot this year, they'll win a lot of games. So
they have good games coming up on their schedule.
Oh, yeah.
What do they have to do for you to put them up there with? And maybe you have them up there, but I mean at number 5, what do they have to do outside of just beat those teams? Like, what's the gap, do you think, between them and like Bama, Georgia?
They would be ahead of Georgia right now if Georgia didn't come back.
Okay.
If Bama would have smacked Georgia by 20 or 30, Tennessee would be ahead of Georgia right now. But because of the way that second half shook out, I have to keep Georgia ahead of Tennessee. They're 44-1 in their last 45 games. And the way they came back, and Carson Beck showed that he can play from behind, and they've never asked him to throw over 50 times a game, and he did against Alabama, and he played very, very well. That's why Georgia's coming in at 4 for me. I couldn't drop them very far. I think they're a very, very good team. They were banged up. They had a lot of injuries, missing some key pieces, and they're very, very far from out of it. I think Georgia is absolutely still a national championship contender. They're my number 4 team in the country, and 4 of the top 5 are SEC teams because number 3 is Texas. I think Texas has been great this year, and they look great with Arch. They haven't missed a step, and that just kind of eases my heart a little bit because we know Quinn struggled with injuries in the past. He got hurt against Alabama a few years ago, and that ultimately cost them that game. Quinn being banged up and then being able to still tread water in the SEC and beat some serious competition with Arch and have him look very, very good is a great sign for them, not just for this year but for years to come. I think they're comfortably the 3rd best team in the country. I know some people have them higher, but at number 2 is the team I think has the best roster in college football, and it's Ohio State. Ohio State's roster is incredible top to bottom. Jeremiah Smith is the best freshman receiver in the country. He's unbelievable what he's able to do on the outside. He might be the best receiver on the team already this year, and that's with a guy in Emeka Ibuka who's primed to break the Ohio State all-time receiving record. It's unbelievable the talent they have in that backfield as well with Judkins and Henderson. They're unbelievable, talented on defense with the best player in the country maybe in Caleb Downs and a defensive line who's been banged up and still able to get pressure. If they get healthier, that defense is going to be really, really good. So I have Ohio State at 2. I think the test in Oregon is going to tell us a lot about this team, but I'm optimistic that they're going to be able to get the job done. And then number 1, very, very easy after this week, It's Alabama. There was no other team it could be. It had to be Alabama. They took care of business against Georgia with maybe one of the best halves of football I've ever seen in the first half. It was so complete. Offense, defense, special teams, just pure dominance in all three phases. Faltered a little bit in the second half. Georgia came all the way back, took the lead, but Jalen Milroe, there's no one else in the country I'd rather have quarterbacking my team. He's an incredible player. He's the Heisman favorite now, and he delivered the ball to Ryan Williams at the end of the game for a game-winning touchdown. And then the defense steps up. The defense steps up, and true freshman corners get a stop at the end of the game. And when you look at Alabama and you see all the youth that they have on that team, you can't help but think that they're going to get better as the season progresses, as those guys get more time and experience under their belt. And if that is the worst Alabama's going to look this year, then I would say watch out college football, because that team looked pretty dang good.
And there you go. That is Tissett's top 10. There's that. So, all right. Well, again, that wraps it up for us on the radio side of things. We'll continue on here on Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, of course. But until tomorrow on the radio side of things, this has been Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. All right, so you guys will never guess what Donald Trump said.
What he said?
Seriously.
Please.
What? Are you about to tell me to stick to sports?
Are you going to talk about the purge?
No, but what an outrageous way to start.
Do you want me to tell you to? Do you just say stick to sports? And I'll. And
I'm not going to tell you to. Do it. Casey made an executive decision. He wants to hear your political.
We're not
takes.
talking politics. I'm sticking to sports. Donald Trump had an opinion on the kickoff rule.
Oh, let's go.
Well, please.
Why
Why
are you always making it about?
how I vote.
But great.
I need
that-
Commonwealth's opinion on the kickoff.
The one on the purge was pretty wild.
That was crazy.
I mean, when I heard that, I'm like, wait, what? I've seen that movie. I don't even watch a lot of movies. But,
I'm in.
You know,
That'd be fun.
it is
I'm
what
out.
it is.
What an unserious opinion. Go ahead.
Hey, stick to sports, guys. Come on. So,
What's the shut up and dribble for us? It's like put the ball back in the garage and talk.
exactly.
I don't
Put
know.
your headset back on. Put your headset back on. Like
Yeah,
something,
put your
right?
headset back on.
So Donald Trump says, I don't know what they're doing with the, with the border. No, wrong quote. Sorry. He goes, I don't know what they're doing with the kickoff return in the NFL. It looks so bad. And I noticed they haven't done that in college, and they shouldn't do it. And I think the NFL should go back. I don't really have a hot take on this at all. I just wanted to quote Donald Trump. He had a sports take, and I just thought I'd share with everybody.
I hate the kickoff rule, and that's why I'm voting.
to change the rule.
The NFL kickoff rule is one of the worst I've ever
it's
seen.
terrible.
It's done nothing. It's made the game worse. So
Yeah.
get rid of it as soon as possible. Next year, I can't wait till it's gone.
Massive shout out to the NCAA for giving us a palate cleanser every
Yeah.
Saturday and getting to watch real football.
I kind of agree.
Remember when they told us this was going to be more returns?
Yeah.
And
They
just boomed that sucker out the back of the
Oh,
end
yeah.
zone every
I
single
bought
also-
it.
and also-
I wanted to believe it. I
Yeah.
did.
And also, who the hell in their right mind is returning it? You get it at the 30.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
I saw players last night returning it. At best, you're getting to like the 28. Take the ball at the 30. Who cares?
If
cool one last
without
point.
returning it to what it was, what's the quick fix? Is it, hey, if you don't take it out, you get it at the 15? Like, what's the quick fix?
No,
What are
I
we
think-
fixing?
you don't have to fix
The
anything.
kickoff
Put it at
was
the 25-yard
fine.
line.
Like, it was
kickoff was
fine.
not fine.
The kickoff worked.
Or
forever.
Brian B's right. Don't do a kickoff at all and just have him start. at the 20.
I'd start at the 20 every time. I'm fine
Dude,
with
I
that.
love the kickoff was great. What was wrong with the kickoff?
There was nothing wrong.
There was
with
nothing wrong with the
There was
kickoff.
nothing wrong with the kickoff.
Jake, 99% of our arguments, I'm always like, yeah, Jake's bringing up some good points to counter me. But, like, what about the kickoff? Did you like, at least today's, like, modern football, before this change, was it good? It wasn't good at all. It was just a waste
bad?
of
It was
time.
a waste of time.
It was just a waste
See,
of time.
I had no problem with the actual kickoff.
I also would love football to be no punts.
It was the
You just
same
get 4
thing. It was
downs.
just kicking it through the back of the end zone.
Yeah. I mean, I think
looked better.
The easiest solution is just
If it's going to look terrible.
Also, what do we call it? It's called kickoff. The NFL kicks off.
the easiest solution is just backing the kicker up so they are forced to not.
Why
be
do we
able to
want
kick it out back.
returns?
That just causes more
More injuries?
You know what I would get rid
Yes,
of?
there would be more injuries. If
You
there's
know what
more
I would get rid of,
returns.
Casey? I would get rid of kickoffs, and I would get rid of extra points. What the hell's the point of the extra point? Just because it's always been a part of it. Like, you score a touchdown, just give them
Well,
7
now
points
it
and
matters
move
'cause
on.
they pushed it back.
But
Well,
like,
I also like the opportunity for effort too.
well, it's damn it. Okay, see, that's one of those right there.
What about
Fair
no
enough.
punting?
But the
You have
extra
to- you
point,
get
so-
4 downs.
or no, just every team has to go for 2. Every team has to go
So,
for 2.
okay, no kickers.
No kickers. I mean, come on. It's.
Well, the Bengals
I
will
mean,
lose a lot. 'cause
Nobody's
the Reds
acknowledged
have
my
an
point.
offense
My
that's
point's
horrible.
great.
what's your point, Elliot? I'm so sorry.
I just
dude.
want no punts. 4 downs. You get 4 downs.
I don't like that.
I don't disagree.
And if you get sacked for a loss of 20, good luck. Try to get back. Try to get as many yards back as you can.
That would be terrible.
That would be great.
And then what I would also do is the first team to miss the playoffs, they would get
the first overall
first
pick.
draft.
Also, there should be another ball on the field.
2 balls, dude. Yes.
Both
there you
offenses
go.
are out at the same time, and the defenses have to stop them both.
And I think we
What are
should
we doing?
change the football to that State Farm commercial where it's a soccer ball and a
Okay.
football together.
What if we
nice.
just made him?
We could
What if
just-
we just made it round and put it on the ground and made him kick it around and end 0-0 after 90 minutes?
Yeah,
and
I like
no one
that.
knows how much time's left on the
That's
clock.
stupid,
I like
dude.
that.
No, you know
And
what you
there
do?
and there should be
we
a
should get like these flags that you put on the
Okay.
side, and
Yeah.
then for safety. That way, guys don't get hurt. They just pull the flag and
I
you're
like
down
that a
right
lot.
there.
I
I don't
like
know.
that.
That's just a suggestion.
I think there should be trapdoors.
Love trapdoors. I
So-
love trapdoors.
So the owner of the team gets at one point. There's one like little there's a couple 5-yard stretches on the field. If one of their players is on the trapdoor, the owner hits a button and the guy goes down,
I like that. I like that.
and he doesn't get to come back out for 5 minutes. It's like hockey.
I think that over the last 22 years of my life watching football, I never one time thought there needs a drastic change to the sport. Not one time was I watching football on a Saturday or Sunday and said, we need to change something massive about this sport. And over the last 5 years, there's been 2 changes that have been abysmal in college and the NFL. NFL with this kickoff and college with the 2-point conversions and overtime. It's the 2 worst rule changes of
But
all
think
time.
about all the time wasted in a football game. Okay, like, and even in practicing kickoffs, they're pointless. You're just kicking them through the back of the end zone. It literally is a waste of everyone's time. You are wasting practice time practicing something that has no impact on games anymore. It just doesn't. Like, it's a waste of everyone's time.
Yeah, but but it's football.
Yeah,
But a football play would be returning it. Kicking it to the back of the end zone is not a football
Well, it's just
play.
the kickers are getting better.
The
Which is
league
a
can't
shame.
keep up with the talent.
It's a shame.
It's it's a shame.
That is honestly though. When
They have gotten way
When have
better.
kickers been this? When were you able to make a 50-yard field
Yeah.
goal in college?
I remember
Now
a time
everyone
when
can.
Everybody can.
I remember. I mean, now when teams draft kickers, it's no longer like. I mean, I remember when the Bengals got poked fun at for the Evan
Yeah.
McPherson thing, and I was like, I secretly was like, I don't think that's that bad of a draft pick. I kind of agreed with it, and it worked out pretty well.
We can no longer, as Bengals fans, we can no longer flex drafting special teamers, right?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a touchy subject
Brad
today,
Robbins,
right?
6th rounder.
Kind of a touchy subject today.
Evan was what? What was he?
Was he
A
the
Fifth.
fifth round?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably not a. We're 1 and 2 now, so.
Yeah.
It's
But
tough.
the trapdoor, I'm all for the trapdoor was good.
Isn't the
Thank
simple
you. I think
solution
the
just
trap
backing
is
up
Like
the
in
kicker?
the middle
though?
of the zero. And,
Yes.
You get
Yes.
one trapdoor pull a game, like
Yeah.
just-
I don't know if I like the button though. I think it should just be pressure. It's like you put the trapdoors in, you're risking that it's also going to happen to your team.
It just
Also just-
randomly
okay.
happens.
But like, and
Yeah,
the
so-
opponents obviously don't know
But I
where
like
they are, and you
but
can
I-
practice on the field. You know where they are.
But I like a controlled. I like a controlled thing. I like a
Okay.
controlled trapdoor.
I think at the bottom of the trapdoor should be like the playpen, little tiny plastic balls that they have at
Yeah.
like Chuck E.
I
Cheese.
like that.
Yeah, or puppies. So you unleash a bunch of puppies onto the field.
like so what's under the trapdoor? What are you falling to? Your
Foam.
death?
It's a foam. They're not injuring players. Let's not be silly.
Ah.
What do you think?
Like
they
the
should do?
plastic balls. I mean, yeah, like
Darkness.
Trapdoor to the bowels of the stadium. Gong.
That was a good.
Metal
That was a
To
good
the
sound
sewers
effect.
you go.
It is crazy though. I forget which kicker it was last night. It was the Dolphins kicker, Sanders. His career long was like 55 or 56, and last night he matched it, or was maybe 1 yard short. But it is crazy to have a kicker like we have in Evan McPherson that just knows like, oh, 55 yards, no problem. Easy work. And then the fact that there's still NFL kickers that you still don't feel comfortable doing that. That's kind of wild.
Yeah. And then when you get to the 49-yard line, you're a little worried about that. You get a little
Ooh,
worried.
Haro says Bengals get to use Tigers.
I like that.
I like that a lot.
Oh, who would be? Okay, this is a good question to, I guess, probably take the last 10 minutes to discuss. Who would be the best team's mascot to have in the bottom of a pit?
Best mascot to
Like,
have.
so the Bengals would get Bengal Tigers.
Sure.
The Giants would get Giants. I don't think that'd be great.
Um,
Jaguars would certainly be good.
let
All
me
the
thi-
big cats
Can,
would be
can I
good.
think about it for a second here? Let me think of mascots. Horses, Colts. You get a bunch of-
Colts would not be bad, but would it just be a bunch of the big inflatable Colts mascots?
oh, well, that's a different story.
Right,
Then. Let me
right.
think. Hold on. Let me think of some of the other
If
mascots.
the Dolphins were in water, I think that would be okay.
Buccaneers, they get pirates.
Swords or no?
Oh yeah, they get swords.
Okay, well,
they're
then,
a
yeah,
pirate.
that's a pretty good one.
Dolphins in the water. That's a good one.
The Raiders
They get
Swords
swords
as well.
Texans are like humans, right? I don't know what they do though.
Are they?
What?
The name, I know the name is
it just
human.
their fans?
Are they not
But
just
would
people
they
from
get
Texas?
Would they get the
their
bull?
logo? Would they get the bull, or would they get their own fans?
Well, I think they get the bull.
I think you'd be more scared of the fans.
If they get their own fans, that's the
they're all
best one.
carrying concealed.
What? Casey.
What?
Casey. They're all carrying.
Oh. That's true. No, but what would be a better?
Oh, Saints. They've got God on their side. That's fair.
true. Well, Cardinals, Falcons.
It's true, Cincy B.
If
It is
there's
pizza
enough
time.
space-
It's B. It's pizza time.
There's enough space between the,
Yeah.
the bottom of the stadium and the playing surface. Any of the bird mascots would be good.
Yeah.
Titans, Jets.
Titans would be
that's-
good. Jets would struggle under a stadium
Yeah, it would be tough to.
because how would they? They'd have to just be parked.
By the way, I saw
They could,
somebody.
like,
I saw.
move, just,
Yeah.
Like, they could stroll
Nah.
around
It's like taxi.
I saw somebody. I saw somebody on Twitter say, "This was a real comment." They said, "I really like the team stuff, Chatterbox does, but off the bench it gets too silly."
Yeah,
And I think he's right.
I think he is.
I think he nailed it right on the
I
head.
think the last 10 minutes on which mascot would be the most deadly to the opposing team's players if trapdoors were installed in the 32 NFL stadiums is one of our best.
It's one of our best arguments by far.
I mean, also a very valid question.
Yours would be good if we didn't give you the dog and we just went with the Browns. It was just like
Oh, yeah.
poop down there.
Yeah.
They just fell into like a vat of
There's
sewage.
hoop involved now? Man, what did I miss?
No.
We're debating which NFL mascot would be the most dangerous to have in the bowels of the stadium for the opposing players to fall through the trapdoors into.
Valid. What?
Valid.
I'm good. I'm good.
All right. That's it.
That's it for that topic.
That is. Well,
I think we're out.
we're out when I say we're out.
Reed Mouse did. I do remember this
So
clip.
There was a little fun little nugget in here that I saw from Reed Mouse. The Commanders have had more scoring drives than they've had incompletions so far this year.
Yeah.
That's an incredible
He's really good,
stat.
man.
That's an incredible stat.
So we saw Jared Goff last night go 18 for 18. We keep seeing these like high completion percentage games. Like I asked that earlier. Why are we seeing so many in just a 4-week span? Like, are the games being called different right now? Like from an offensive scheme standpoints, like we're not seeing. I mean, we've watched Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow connect on a deep ball or two. We haven't seen. I mean, watching the Browns connect on that deep ball, they got called back for Cooper. I'm like, oh, I forgot what that deep ball looked like. Like we don't see that in football too often anymore. I feel like that's been basically, not eliminated, but we just don't see it. Is that why we're seeing so many of these higher completion percentage type games? Because just seems to be a lot tighter, on how far out they pass. But that 18 of 18 from Goff last night was great. Daniels is continuing to dominate. I mean, he doesn't have many incompletions at all. And it's not like they're being super aggressive with it. It's just weird seeing how the game's changing because we keep talking about how it's a passing league. I guess it's still a passing league, but when I think passing league, I think those deep shots down the field all the time, and we just don't see that anymore.
Yeah, just 5 attempts for Jaden Daniels in the last 2 weeks, over 20 yards. None last night for Goff, over 20 yards. I think it's just a reaction, as we talked about a few weeks ago, with the how much cover 2 people are playing, and just take the underneath, and people are just throwing the ball to playmakers underneath. And I think offensive coordinators are getting much, much more creative with how to get their best playmakers the ball, because you can't just run streaks and goes and posts and corners anymore because defenses are so much more multiple than they ever have been in the past. So I think that's part of it. But also I think it's just going to come as the season progresses. I think we'll see more deep balls and more explosive plays because we've seen them at an all-time low rate so far.
By the way, I love the flexibility of the show. It wasn't even 3 minutes ago you were talking about a trapdoor dropping down to feces, and here we are breaking down why do we think such high completion percentage. I love this show. This is great stuff. Casey, why are we seeing so many? Casey's take, what's up?
Yeah, that was an interesting morning, wasn't it? Yeah.
The way you started the show, we had no chance.
That was awesome.
We had no
So
chance.
can you do it again?
What?
How you started the show?
How depressing the Miami Dolphins are?
I mean, we hadn't even got to Pete Rose yet, and I'm thinking in my head, I haven't had to do many shows where I've had to I'm not gonna cry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a sad story. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like, I don't know how to approach this Pete Rose story. So I was kind of like not nervous, but like, man, like what's the tone that you use for talking about this? Because I do think it's a huge deal. Obviously, Pete Rose is one of my all-time favorite athletes. Like, this is a huge deal. It impacted me, no doubt. But like, I don't know how the tone of my voice. So I'm nervous of what the tone of the show is going to be. And then Casey from the top rope. How did you start the show, Casey?
To be fair, let me clarify the air. On my position on Pete Rose, I'm very, very sorry for those that are fans of Pete Rose.
This makes it worse.
No, roll on, brother.
Just keep going. I just wanted to lighten up the mood a little bit and talk about something that's a little more funny. The Dolphins, they are abysmal, and it's almost hysterical how bad they are. So that's why I said that. But
you're not wrong.
But I also will admit and realize that that's maybe in poor taste hours after we got news. So.
It was a little more than hours. You're fine.
Yeah, but anyways.
And then we thought we forgot about it, but we had to throw you under the bus and make you
yeah,
answer for your sins over here. Like,
well, I saw some people in the chat weren't happy with the joke, so thought I'd clear the air.
Nice job, dude.
Saw some people saying Mike McDaniel was made by Tua after last night, and that is probably the 100th most likely take I thought I was going to see on my timeline.
Yeah,
because that's something.
Yeah, that's a terrible take.
Hawk Tua.
Are you gonna leave him hanging?
All right, that's it. End it.
Yeah, that got real quick. Like that took a windy turn down. I mean, that was probably the worst, most maybe ridiculous 10 minutes of show we've ever done.
Yeah, up there.
Yeah,
Top 7.
I mean, the mascots to what we're dropping into to trying to be serious for a second, then had to make it awkward bringing up the Pete Rose introduction again, and now it just feels weird. So now's a good time to duck.
Yeah.
If you guys like that last 10 minutes, make sure you subscribe because that's an hour on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for Box Lunch.
Yeah.
So if you enjoyed that last 10 minutes, make sure you click that subscribe button and join us tomorrow when we do it again for a whole hour.
Go ahead and hit the like button, too. Just like. There we go. Like. I even liked it.
Bye, everybody. Love you.
Take care.